Piles of official documents. This is not work. It's literally a matter of life and death. Cashin smiled and said, Rose. Why did you stop? Looks like you're pretty idle now. Now we're in trouble. Thought I had time traveled into the main female role. Can have a good life. So this isn't a romantic drama at all, but just the suffering of a hard-working employee. I can't figure it out for the life of me. Clearly they've jumped into a novel. How did I end up being tormented like this by the male lead? Rosalita Salis. South is a gem in her palm. This is actually where the original assistant becomes the true protagonist. Just that she looks pretty, still the kind of heavenly favored princess surrounded by stars. But now, everything is completely off. Thought coming here through a time jump. To live that healing rich aristocratic life. Turns out I forgot one big thing. This original work isn't actually a sweet and pampered story, but a thoroughly blood-soaked tragedy, kidnapping and imprisonment. Even with assassination attempts, the original owner, Rosalita, was really at rock bottom. Even if the ending is good in the end, who cares about going through this pain anyway? Let me suffer for it. Why be a motivational leading lady? A horse doesn't have such a rotten fate. I've revised my plan and it's actually very simple. Stay far away from that dangerous male lead. Go back to the countryside to be a carefree little nobleman. Spend days basking in the sun and admiring flowers. Just thinking about it makes me feel beautiful. Unfortunately, ideals are very full-bodied. Reality just gave me a hammer straight to my face. When I was preparing for my social debut, suddenly something big happened at home. Mother cries and says, "Dear daughter, I'm sorry." Just when we were about to reveal the truth, our family is completely bankrupt now. This time it's really over for us. Not only are we bankrupt, but even our last bit of savings will be sold off. Jin Guang. I truly can't figure this out. It was just a minor change in the plot. How did the entire family collapse because of that? If I had known this, I should have taken advantage of the fact that we hadn't gone bankrupt yet, and started a side business to make some money. But it's too late to regret now. To pay off these astronomical debts from this class, I can only rush to find a job to work hard. And the result is truly an old enemy meeting on a narrow road. After finally finding a high-paying position, the employer is actually Prince Kaisian II. The person I tried my best to avoid, now he's going to become my boss. Just knowing that the original female lead stayed by Kaisian's side several times nearly lost her life. If I get involved with him, I might be kidnapped or threatened. How are we supposed to live through this then? But compared to these dangers that haven't even happened yet, I'm really broke now. Looking around the entire capital city of Jingcheng, I can no longer find a job with higher pay than this one. With no choice, I could only grit my teeth and send my resume to the office of Second Prince. It was in the winter of that year when I turned 19, Rosalita officially started my working life. Grabbing my luggage, I finally set off for the capital city for the job interview. As it happens, the day I left happened to be the same day as the original assistant Rosalita came to the capital. Exactly the same. Is this what they call destiny? When I really stood in front of the Imperial Prince's office location, that is, right in front of this East Palace, I was completely stunned. It doesn't look at all deserted here. In fact, it feels quite cozy. But the name East Palace is actually quite fitting for someone like Kaisian, who is so cunning and devious. Since we're already at the door, I can only venture into this dragon den and tiger lair. In my imagination, Kaisen should be that kind of gloomy and cold-blooded person. The moment we meet, I have to immediately prove my worth to such a devilish boss. Who could have thought? Opening the door, seeing the real person inside. Surprisingly, it comes with background pedals. Smiling brighter than anyone else, he didn't make things difficult for me at all. Instead, he said gently to Miss Salis, "Thank you for making this trip," and even politely said to me, "If we were closer, a royal carriage would definitely be sent to pick me up." This doesn't fit the tone at all. Where's that cunning snake from the original story? Before I could react, he added, "Your resume is really outstanding. I don't want to miss out on a talent like you." Now we're in trouble. This gentle trap is it's much harder to deal with than tricky famous outfits. Kashin smiled and said, "For the job interview, it's just a formality. Let's talk about the employment benefits directly." I was still puzzled at the time. Is this really the cold-hearted male lead from the original assistant? But when he handed me the contract, I was completely dumbfounded. Monthly salary of 500 gold coins, overtime pay doubled, and even work only 4 days a week. It comes with a 2-story Western-style villa with a butler included. This isn't hiring an assistant. This is practically inviting a deity. The benefits are even better than what's advertised in the job posting. By far and away. I quickly nodded and agreed. Afraid he might regret it and thank the boss next second. I'll take this job. Although this divine treatment makes me laugh in my dreams, but deep down, I always feel there must be a bigger trap waiting for me behind it. A monthly salary of 500 gold coins does indeed have people. But the cost is that as long as I still have a breath left, I have to work overtime endlessly. At that time, I felt like I hit the jackpot. Without hesitation, I signed on the contract. Signed Rosetta's name. And a year has passed in the blink of an eye. Looking at this mountain of documents on the table, I finally understand what it means to be socially beaten down. Kaizen called out from outside, "Rosetta!" I could only respond weakly, "Over there, Your Highness." It was supposed to be quitting time at 6 p.m., but Kaizen insisted on showing up right on the dot of the clock. He smiled and said it was time to do what you like the most. Double pay, overtime. At the time, I really wanted to throw the pen in my hand at his face. This is supposed to be a prince? He's nothing but a thorough devil. I replied with a smile on the outside and no feeling inside. How could that be possible? I was just looking at your highness's collar. Has it flipped over yet? This life can't go on anymore. This class really can't add any more days. Kaizen is truly arrogant to the extreme. Not only did I not fall for it, but he even mocked me for always making rookie mistakes. He suddenly stared at me without saying a word. That look made my heart shiver. Could he hear my inner complaints? When I was lost in thought, he actually reached out and grabbed my chin, the distance so close it left no room for thought. And when he opened his mouth to speak, it nearly drove me mad with anger. Instead of looking at his shirt, he told me to worry more about whether I was stressed to the point of losing my hair. Whew, I really am impressed. If it weren't for how handsome he is, I really want to resign on the spot. Before I could recover, he dropped another bombshell. Explain what surprise inspection is going to happen tomorrow. Now it's completely finished. This day is unbearable. Not even a second can be endured. Kaizen suddenly handed me a box. He also reminded me to bring him tomorrow. I opened it up and looked inside. Almost got blinded by the light inside. This is actually the Western-style crown from Knighting Legends. This was forcibly confiscated during an audit. If I were to carry him around like this in public, those people would probably go crazy on the spot. They would definitely curse us as evil tyrants behind our backs. I looked at Kaizen's calm smile and finally understood in my heart. He wasn't giving me jewelry. Clearly, he intended to use my head as a battlefield, directly declaring war on those people. It was finally time to arrive at the East Palace. I didn't want to come here anyway, but now I still had to enter wearing this headpiece. Rosalita asked unkindly, "Is it very funny?" Looking at Kaizen's expression, this isn't bringing me to the party. It's clearly pushing me into the spotlight. Rosalita knew well. Stepping through this door means entering a den of thieves. This is the ceremony hall. All matters, big and small, of the royal household are handled by them. Everything in sight is dominated by stubborn old aristocrats. Don't be fooled by their outward shock. In secret, few of them are clean. They rely entirely on their power to siphon off benefits. Take bribes and use them for those hypocritical displays. Each one pretends to be more virtuous than the rest. In truth, these old fellows just pick their targets based on who they're dealing with. Just look at status, not the person. Although Kaizen is a difficult boss, but at least he values ability more, rather than these fake titles. But to these people in the ceremony hall, I'm just the daughter of a bankrupt baron. Basically, I can't even make an appearance. More ironically, the head ornament on top of my head turns out to be confiscated from a noble of the Diaosleep family. Now this is interesting. Going to see these old stubborn ones with dirt on me? The situation is about to turn around. Kaizen coldly said that these people are too cheap to pay taxes. They're quite generous in buying such luxury goods. Roselta's heart was literally exploding. It's forcing me to bring this thing to the ceremony hall. This is clearly new bullying, Kaizen teased. Your gaze is quite menacing, Rosalita retorted unkindly. That was just my tiredness causing my eyes to look unfocused. As a result, Kaizen laughed even harder. And he still advised him not to push himself too hard. Actually, I can understand Kaizen too. Why be so cautious? After all, he's handling a hell difficulty script. Talk about looks, ability, and sword skills? He is definitely top-notch. Yet he doesn't have the royal blue eyes of legitimate lineage. Born without a mother, still, because of these purple eyes, was always excluded by the royal family, especially that of the current emperor. The mother of the crown prince regarded him as a thorn in the eye. Even his biological father, the current emperor, ignored him entirely. He not only had to evade countless assassination attempts, but also survive in political struggles on the brink of death, barely into adulthood, and was sent to the battlefield. It's nothing to him. Encountered that pesky original main character? Rosalita merely another hardship in life. Since childhood, I've lived in blood and tears. It's no wonder he turned out this way. Now everything matches perfectly. No wonder he turned into this kind of crazy workaholic. Now, grew up in such an environment, anyone would struggle to live normally. Just then, the carriage stopped. Kaizen softly reminded us we had arrived. Before us was the ceremony hall. It is also the dragon pond and tiger den they have to venture into today. Kaizen walked in front. Rosalita followed closely behind. The two walked side by side into the hall. As soon as I stepped into the arena, continuous whispers and murmurs surrounded them. Several nobles stared at Rosalita's oath, sneering and gossiping behind my back. Whew, he has the nerve, still talking about how Kaizen was, for a woman like her, drunken. The entire nobility circle has been. These words Rosoteki heard clearly at the time. He rolled his eyes inwardly. I won't bear this for this country. His temperament was like this before I came. Cassian turned around and asked, "What do you think?" Rosotaki answered with a calm face, "Your Highness, let's get back to work then. I just want to go home as soon as possible after work." He doesn't want to stay in this place for even 1 second. Cassian looked at Rosalita beside him, feeling extremely satisfied. He waved his hand broadly and announced that the audit was officially starting. He had thought this would take a long time, but he didn't expect Cassian to get into it so quickly. It was like he was a different person entirely. Although he usually has a very likable personality, when it comes to work, he is indeed professional. He spotted the discrepancies in the ledger at a glance. Even the deeply concealed cases of embezzlement were instantly revealed by him. At this rate, he could definitely leave work early today for sure. Just then, Cassian stared at the official across from him and let out a cold snort. Now someone's going to have a bad time. Kaisen slammed the ledger onto the table. He accused these accounts of having unclear funding sources. The Director General isn't afraid, is he? You actually dared to use fake accounts to fool me? He ordered on the spot that the file archive should be sealed directly. Now the director is thoroughly uncomfortable. To grit my teeth and argue against it. Even if I stare at the prince doing this, it's too dismissive of us. Kaisen heard this, let out a cold laugh. I've already gathered several pieces of evidence of corruption. Do we need to chat about your responsibilities before auditing the accounts? As soon as these words came out, the director was completely frozen in his tracks. It looks like Kaisen is trying to force the door open. He's still desperately struggling, shouting that it absolutely can't be done. Kaisen's gaze turned cold. Now that you're being so uncooperative, I won't be polite then. Kaisen suddenly stopped in his tracks. Turning around, he called out to Rosalita. Pointing at the archive room's door, he said, "You open it." Rosalita was completely stunned, thinking, you opening it yourself wouldn't be faster? Why bother making me do this? But Cassian instead wore a radiant smile, saying, "You should open this door with your own hands, so I didn't waste your time bringing you this crown." This is clearly supporting him in public. After Rosalita heard that, she wasn't moved at all. Feel like pulling my hair out. This guy is definitely up to some mischief again. This isn't Lu Wei at all. It's clear he's gotten himself into a big mess. Cassian suddenly leaned in close, asking if Rosalita wanted to relieve some stress as well. Rosalita hadn't even reacted yet and dropped a major bombshell right next to her ear. As long as you push this door open, bonus triples to 5 times. Hearing about a 5 times bonus, Rosalita instantly became fully alert. No hesitation, no trouble. All insignificant in front of money. Without a word, he rushed to the door and used all his strength. Bang! The door to the archive was violently pushed open by him. The director was so enraged that he jumped up in anger. Messenger Rosalita shouted loudly, "You actually dared to ignore my words entirely?" Rosalita sneered. Without turning her head, she threw out an apology. "I am the deputy of Prince Second. Except for his orders, no one listens when I speak." The director is left speechless before the team, can only curse at his back, calling them demons from the East Palace. Rosalita's heart skipped a beat after listening. This nickname was originally just for Cassian alone. How did they now include me in it too? Rosalita walks forward without looking back, mocking at the Director General lying on the ground, says, "Now cursing us as demons is useless. After all, the 5 times bonus is right in front of you. Let alone demons, even if heavenly kings and patriarchs came, they couldn't stop his determination to audit the accounts. Now both of them are thoroughly famous, everyone outside is cursing loudly. They say they are demons from the Eastern Palace. Cassian, on the other hand, looks completely calm, even thinking that reputation sounds good. Rosalita couldn't sit still anymore. He loudly rebutted, "Don't drag me into this strange nickname too." He never thought that he had worked so hard. In the end, it turned out to be what others called a devil. It seems the demon of the Eastern Palace will be a nickname from now on. Can't get rid of it. Actually, this devil's nickname in the original work, it's not that simple. That was the Queen's means of manipulating Kaiserion. In the later parts of the story, this is even more for Rosalita. Proof of becoming a ruthless character. Rosalita thought the more she felt something was off. The atmosphere now is getting closer to the original story. Although not as evil, but the outcomes are still the same. Anyway, I'm always the one who ends up suffering. Forget it, thinking about it more won't help anyway. Better get back to work then. Rosalita doesn't want to waste any more words. He just wants to get the work done quickly. Leave this place early before more trouble arises. Caution flipped through a few pages casually. Start disliking it up until then. These old debts, even more messy than expected. It seems like finding anything useful in this mess is going to be difficult. The clues today are destined to keep him up all night. Rosalita sighed. Looking back after returning to the palace, there are still endless reports waiting for him to finish. Cassian, on the other hand, seemed quite relaxed and even made a joke about his beloved assistant. Now he has to stay up all night again. Rosalita refused on the spot. This miserable task, he doesn't want to do it for a second longer. Just as the two were about to leave, suddenly a shout came from behind them. Someone was rushing to catch up. The director is completely fried now. He thought that having Cassian check the files would be enough. Now they even need Rosalita. Come be in charge of this accounting inspection. In his eyes, Rosalita is just a daughter from a humble family, has no right to be in a place like the Bureau of Etiquette, meddle in, face this public humiliation. Rosalita didn't back down at all. He calmly reminded the chief bureau officer, "All procedures are in compliance. If you have any grievances, please submit a written complaint letter directly. Oral protests are ineffective here." The director is now thoroughly worried. He thinks Rosalita is too disrespectful, daring to speak out in front of your majesty. Rosalita just rolled her eyes repeatedly. This guy is truly beyond help. Since he insists on talking about status, might as well come straight to the point. He stared into the director's eyes and asked, "If the person standing here today was by Prince's side, would you still dare speak to me like this?" The director was left speechless. Can only make a fuss there, feel about Rosalita. Has no qualifications whatsoever, compared to being with those big shots, Rosalita sneered. Since the other party has already given away their deceit, he asked the director to write a written report first. Whether or not we can pass through, it still needs to be reviewed by him in person. The director couldn't say a word after what the team said, could only watch helplessly as Rosalita, leaving Prince Kaizen behind with a triumphant departure. Actually, Rosalita was also seething with anger inside. He feels like he's doing a good job, more than the people around Great Prince. Just plain hard-working souls. Kaizen didn't make a sound the whole time, just quietly watching everything unfold. Then he finally spoke, saying, "We should head back to the Eastern Palace." The director's voice was hoarse from shouting behind us, thinking Rosalita was completely out of line. But this couldn't stop the carriage from leaving anyway. Back in the carriage, Rosalita just wanted to quickly take off her jewelry. This day was really exhausting, just dealing with all of this. Who knew that Kaizen suddenly leaned in, stared at him for a while. The tone was full of regret. Say, that hat actually suits him well. Rosalita is now completely over the top, completely didn't realize if this was praising him or just teasing him. He can't help but ridicule him, which actually compliments me. Isn't that just like Jubajie wearing flowers? It's completely off the charts. Kaizen suddenly leaned over. There was a hint of probing in his tone. Ask Rosalita if she was upset about what happened just now. Feeling uncomfortable inside, Rosalita hadn't reacted yet. Kaizen is getting closer and closer, even suggesting that he should be wronged. Some compensation should be given. Now, Rosalita is completely thrown off, completely unable to guess what kind of medicine is in his gourd. What kind of compensation requires such proximity? Kaizen looks into his eyes. He lifted the corner of his mouth slightly, saying he would prepare something for him, the kind of compensation he desired most in daily life. Who could have thought that Cassian's so-called compensation turned out to be shiny banknotes? Rosalita knew better than anyone. This guy was best at using such tactics. Use beauty to dazzle your eyes, then use money to bet on your mouth. Yet there's something about looking at Cassian's face. Rosalita truly has no temper at all. Kaizen deliberately added another cut, smiling and asking if he really didn't want it. Now Rosalita completely broke down, shouting with a loud voice, "Of course he wants it! This man is really annoying." The office building was brightly lit at night. Rosalita was left to work overtime again. He cursed the chief bureau officer 1,000 times in his heart. This life isn't human. Just as he was preparing to wrap up for the day, Cassian suddenly appeared behind him, his voice gentle, asking him, "Do you need me to give him a ride home?" Rosalita was politely formal on the surface, but his mind was frantically calculating every little detail. Feels like Cassian is a workaholic, then spend time pleasing others. Better get all the rest done quickly. He was just about to find an excuse to slip away. Cassian suddenly stopped in his tracks. He stopped him with a serious expression. Rosalita subconsciously turned her head around. Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be that comment just now was heard by this prince? Cassian suddenly became serious. He instructed Rosalita, "Be more cautious on your way back. Just tell me to walk back." Such an idea is out of the question. Rosalita felt utterly baffled, but still obediently nodded in agreement. Little did he know that Cassian's next words nearly turned him to stone on the spot. He actually wanted to summon royal knights, specifically to escort Rosalita's carriage. Rosalita mentally screamed in frustration. The ride only took about 10 minutes. Is making such a big fuss really necessary? Rosalita was laughing so carelessly just now, thinking that Taschen was overthinking it entirely. What could possibly go wrong in this place? But his flag didn't even stand for long. The comeuppance came swiftly. The carriage hadn't traveled far when it was intercepted by a group of people of unknown origin. The other party held wolfskin clubs in their hands, speaking with an extremely arrogant tone, naming the woman in the carriage directly, demanding that she obediently go with them. The guard knights quickly stepped in front of the carriage door, instructing Rosalita not to show herself outside. This setup is clearly aimed at him. Rosalita was now thoroughly stunned. Originally thought it was just Cassian overthinking things. Never expected the real danger. Had been watching him from the shadows for a long time already. A little brainpower would tell you that the Black Hand must definitely be that bureau chief. Rosalita's heart let out a cold laugh. It's such a low-handed trick that can't even see the light of day. You really look down on people. Since the opponent has come to us willingly, then let's just make him suffer constantly. Rosalita remained calm as she rolled down the car window. She ordered the knights to try and capture live ones. After capturing them, hand them over directly to Cassian. The knights took their orders and left. Watching the chaos outside the window, Rosalita already had a new plan in mind. Taking advantage of the trip back home, there's still some time. He has to give that bureau chief. Prepare an unforgettable gift for a lifetime. A howling like that of ghosts and wolves came from outside the window. Since the chief insisted on pulling off this act, Then we need to calculate the overtime pay properly. Rosalita didn't waste any time and took out paper and pen. He has to make them pay dearly for this debt. The next morning, the main gate of Lee Department was completely smashed open. This is really going to cause a stir now. This once influential big shot now looks like a stray dog. Forced away by the guards, he's still yelling and complaining loudly. "Feel that my status doesn't deserve such treatment," Cashin replied coldly. "Dare to kidnap the Crown Prince's assistant? You really talk too much, and this is just the beginning. All those involved in corruption will not get away with it." Big trouble has finally been resolved, although there are still many messes to clean up next. But now, Rosalita can only think of one thing. That is, the 3-day holiday coming soon. As long as he makes it through today, he can finally lie in bed all day. No one will be able to make him move a muscle. Just as he was happily planning this, a voice suddenly came from behind. "Cashin." He was looking at Cashin with a smile. This tone doesn't sound right at all. Rosalita's heart skipped a beat. This vacation might be in jeopardy now. Cassian suddenly gave an order with no room for refusal. He was to make sure Rosalita attended the royal ball. This scared him half to death. He was extremely reluctant inside. Just as he was about to refuse, Cashin directly used his psychic abilities. Not only did the stipend triple, even all the expensive jewelry that day were given to him. Who can sit still now? Rosalita's limit vanished instantly. "Since your highness is so sincere, then he will definitely attend this ball." In a blink of an eye, the grand annual ceremony in the palace has officially begun. With the announcer's loud declaration, Rosalita held onto Cassian's arm as they formally entered. This was his first time witnessing such a grand event. He couldn't help but feel nervous inside. He had thought that someone with Cassian's personality would definitely find this party boring. Still worried he might be uncomfortable, but the result was that Cassian handled it effortlessly. Leaned in close and whispered praise to his ear, saying, "He looked so beautiful today that one couldn't look away." Rosalita finally understood this time. This prince isn't unaccustomed at all. He clearly enjoyed the attention he was receiving. Kaizen looked at Rosalita before him, full of admiration. "Say, this outfit is practically tailor-made for him." Rosetica knew very well this ball wasn't just about dancing. It was his perfect chance to turn things around. He just needed to perform excellently tonight. Could get rid of that frugal baron's daughter title after all this time. He didn't participate in an official coming-out event. Those nobles whose lives are extraordinary, enough with the disregard. Surely he made an appearance. Those gossiping voices never stopped around there. Everyone is mocking him, saying he's not even a real noble. In the rigid social circle, noble sons want to truly make an appearance, must formally bow before emperor and empress. This is not just about etiquette, but also a ticket to their status. Roselta was very much aware of this. Although he missed the previous social debut, but tonight's year-end gala, this is his best chance to solidify his identity. So long as he completes this ritual in front of the emperor and empress, he will no longer be that marginalized baron's son or daughter, but truly step into the heart of imperial power. The queen immediately speaks with a sly tone, saying that Kaishin doesn't often see people, whether he feels uncomfortable in such a lively place. Kaishin isn't someone to mess with. Just give a direct response. Say he's busy handling father's tasks. Unlike the crown prince, who is already drinking and enjoying himself there, and follow the empress's usual insults for self-deprecation. Say it's because of his lack of ability that he's so busy. Roselta heard all this clearly on the side. This is obviously Kaishin intentionally retaliating. After all, everyone knows that there would be no second prince without him. The whole country might come to a standstill. The atmosphere was growing increasingly tense. The empress consort spoke up to smooth things over. Let Kaizen introduce his sidekick here. Rosalita thought that, it's now time for him to bow to the queen. Who could have thought Kaishin actually played completely out of the expected pattern? Kadafa Feng Fengdi recommended Rosalita to the emperor, and specially requested imperial permission to perform a bow. Now everyone in the room was stunned. Kaishin clearly made it obvious he treated the queen like she wasn't there, not even giving her a glance. Rosalita watched from the side, heart pounding with fear. This blatant disregard. It's like repeatedly jumping on the empress's landmine. The situation is likely to get completely out of control now. Rosalita finally reacted to this. Kaishin brought him to the ball. He must have no sense of timing at all, this good-intentioned guy. He wants to use himself as a pawn. They're making things difficult for the empress. The emperor was left with a headache from his actions. He could only call out his name helplessly. But Kakaishin showed no signs of stopping. Instead, he made an even stronger request for the emperor's permission to carry luggage. This time, things really got complicated. Rosalita inexplicably became the center of attention in the entire room, and she became a thorn in the queen's eye. The next step might be an abyss awaiting. Kaishin's move was absolutely brilliant. He played tricks on the emperor right in front of everyone by being a bully. Say, if Rosalita returned to the territory because she was wronged, those heavy tasks that Father Emperor assigned to him, He's about to give up on it altogether. The Emperor is now thoroughly in their grasp. To not exhaust myself, he could only follow Kashian's lead. This was an acknowledgement of Roselita's identity, and he reminded him to properly assist the prince in the future. Roselita understood this clearly in her heart. The Emperor's tolerance towards Kashian's rudeness was half-hearted at best. Was all because Kashian had done too much work. But this social debut barely passed muster. He is more worried about the Empress's retaliation next. Just as he was restless, Kashian suddenly leaned close to his ear and whispered, "If the Empress privately summons you later, you can refuse directly." Refuse her message. Roselita could hardly believe what she heard. He was very clear about this. I'm just a small baron's daughter. This blatant act of defying orders unintentionally, it's like choosing to walk the path of death again. Although Kashian promised with an air of composure that he is a prince, all consequences will be his burden. But Roselita knew in her heart better than anyone, Kashian has no allies in the royal court. He has always been fighting alone. Looking at Kashian, that Fu wanted to protect him carefully, Roselita's heart was a mix of emotions. His current situation is already difficult enough. Absolutely cannot do this now. Drag him down. So he took a deep breath. Still refused Kaijian's kind offer. Kashian couldn't help but tease one last time as he left. If Roselita is lured away by someone else, he will be very disappointed. Then he left Roselita alone. Go handle your official business. Roselita had wanted to catch her breath during this opportunity. He was still calculating in his mind. Although the Empress surely didn't have good intentions, but it's unlikely she would try to harm me right in front of everyone immediately after I returned from my mission. Yet he clearly underestimates the Empress's patience. Just as he was about to raise his wine cup, planning to wait for Kashian to return, the Empress's lady-in-waiting actually came directly to his door, her tone icy, demanding that he go immediately. Roselita just entered the room. The queen immediately warmly welcomed her with 1,000 miles of smiles. This attitude is utterly baffling. I thought we would have to endure a good scolding, but instead she greeted me with a smile. What on earth is she up to in that pot? It seems this banquet is more troublesome than anticipated. The queen's performance in this play is truly complete. Not only did he make a friendly gesture by holding Roselita's gloves, but he also looked genuinely concerned for his junior as they chatted. He surprisingly offered to help support the Roselita household. This pie has fallen too suddenly. Roselita was taken aback right there. Such good fortune falling from the sky. What trap is lurking behind it? Kashian came straight to the point now. He started by blaming him for no reason, complaining that Roselita actually dared to make him wait. Roselita won't fall for this trick, telling him to go find those noble ladies and dance with them. Don't waste time here. But before he could finish speaking, Kashian directly reached out and grabbed him. He won't let anyone go today for sure. Kashian really does have smooth talk. Not only did he kiss her hand in public, still want to book the first dance at Roselita's? With this combo of moves, even though Roselita didn't say anything in front of everyone, her heart was actually struggling to keep up already. He always feels that these tempting tactics, it's a common tactic used by Kachai, but for some reason I can't avoid it. As the music starts playing, their game is just beginning. The atmosphere on the dance floor becomes increasingly subtle. Kachai surprisingly begins to tease Roselita, saying that his messy hair looks cute usually. He realizes that the Kachai in front of him is different from the original assistant. That prickly personality is completely different. Now, he makes people want to get closer instead. Kashian's mouth really kills with words. He opens his mouth and asks Roselita if she's planning to go do business for the queen. Roselita was totally dumbfounded by this whole conversation. Such a private topic. How did he know about it anyway? The result was that Kashian still had a magnanimous expression, saying even if Roselita really couldn't resist the temptation, he wouldn't blame her. As soon as these words came out, Roselita completely lost her temper. This feeling of not being trusted was even more painful than being threatened by the queen. This time, Roselita was thoroughly humiliated. She directly told Kashian about it locally. The Empress wants to use helping him pay off his debts as a trade to let him become a spy monitoring the prince. Kashian was silent for a long time after hearing this. He actually saw through the Empress's tactics long ago. For all these years, the Empress has always been trying to isolate him. The Crown Prince has 5 top geniuses around him, and not even a deputy could be by Kashian's side. This blatant suppression makes the road ahead even harder to walk. Kashian's words carry too much information. He said since Roselita appeared, his status in front of the Emperor has been skyrocketing, even surpassing those so-called elites. It's only now that Roselita realizes the queen really got this one wrong this time. He always felt Roselita came from a lowly background, and never took this little girl seriously at all. But in the end, this disregarded outsider became the biggest wildcard in Queen's plans. Cassian's move to first be polite and then get down to business was truly brilliant. He first affirmed Roselita's abilities, telling her not to doubt herself anymore, and that she should feel proud of herself. Roselita hasn't recovered from that compliment yet. Cassian immediately threw in a tricky question. Since the queen's conditions are so tempting, why do you still refuse them? Now it's Rosalia who has nothing to say. He does indeed have many secrets hidden in his heart, but under these circumstances now, he can't reveal everything to Cassian yet. The Empress's methods are really becoming more outrageous. He actually wants to take Luozelita gave Shipeiji a bad personality. Still, extremely ugly, 20 sets. This is clearly an attempt to get Luozelita push someone into the fiery pit. Rosalita guessed Cassian's first reaction upon hearing this would definitely be to burst out laughing. The result was that Cassian's expression immediately turned cold. He realized that the Empress wasn't just trying to buy his favor. She was openly humiliating him. Rosalita is in trouble now. The Empress's malice. It has already thoroughly touched Cassian's bottom line. After the commotion died down, there were only these two people left in the carriage. Rosalita fell asleep immediately from exhaustion. Completely didn't notice the Kai-sen nearby is just staring at him intently. Dreamscape. Cassian is no longer the cold prince. He vowed a promise, no matter how much time passed, Rosalita will always be his only choice. Rosalita suddenly woke up with a start. Discovered that I was actually in Cassian's arms. Slept all the way. He hasn't snapped out of that strange dream yet. Cassian gently urged him to get out of the car. Just as Rosalita thought she was going to start the miserable work when it begins, Ma Xianqian Ju Rong Zhong Ge Ta Fang Le, 3 Tianjia. This sudden happiness let Rosalita take off right where she stands. It seems the most beautiful white wolf these past few days. A worker's joy is so simple. Now, finally, she can relax completely. She has finally endured to get the long-awaited vacation. Rosalita lies on the bed. Her mind is already planning all 3 days of happiness, filled to the brim with activities. Should I write a letter to my family first, or go browse the bookstore, or just lie on the bed all day long? Just thinking about it feels so delightful. Just as he was about to activate the cripple mode, suddenly there was a knock at the door. Now Rosalita is completely confused. Clearly, no one should be coming today. Who is this unexpected guest? Could the holiday not have started yet? Already be ruined like this? The doorbell rang. It turned out to be a postman. He immediately asked for Rosalita and handed over a heavy invitation card. Who would have thought? This is actually from the Countess herself. She specifically requested him to attend tomorrow's luncheon. Rosalita was completely dumbfounded. This sudden surprise was even more shocking than being frightened. Cassian was busy handling official business. Rosalita suddenly barged in. The way she came certainly gave everyone quite a scare. Cassian asked Xiaxinyan without lifting his head, "Are you rushing here just to get your pocket money?" Rosalita's hesitant response will have to do. It's about like that. Seems like these 3 days off, it was destined to be unable to live in peace. Cassian saw through it in an instant, smiling and saying, "You're just using me as a shield to avoid the Viscountess's invitation." He is quite generous. Let Rosalita use him as a shield in the future. But Rosalita can't even laugh about it. Just now, it was really dangerous. In the supporting plot, it was because he attended that dinner party that the queen started spreading those outrageous rumors. Now it seems all the misfortunes that the original Zhonglo Saila experienced began from the moment she met the queen. The queen's face shows only a sense of charity. "You should be eternally grateful to me," saying that if not for his help, a destitute daughter like her would never have risen to such heights. The noblewoman next to her joined in with sarcastic comments, saying that since it was the Empress's intention, they would reluctantly accept this daughter-in-law. Rosalita shivered as she heard this. In the original plot, Cassian had to protect him and was even pointedly reprimanded by the Empress. Back then, Cassian was far less cunning than he is now. There's no way at all. Hold him firm from these hungry wolves. Cassian suddenly started speaking with a smile. He says the Empress doesn't even understand you. After all, Rosalita's favorite was clearly wine. Big meat money. Rosalita couldn't help but exclaim, "Cassian is just like a fox." Surprisingly, she figured out all his preferences. And another lash. The Countess was still counting her chickens before they hatched. Thinking Rosalita would dare not refuse the second invitation. Even planning to move out of the Queen's letter to put pressure on her. Just as he was about to start writing, suddenly, there was a loud noise from outside the door. The main door was directly hit open. Rosalita entered, with the soldiers breaking down the door. This scene completely confused Baroness Dominatrix. Rosalita gave a cold glance at her watch, revealing the exact time. January 5th, afternoon, 2:27. Rosalita announced publicly, "By Prince Fanxian's order, now we will seal and search the entire Ireno family estate." The Countess immediately lost her temper. She shouted, asking if Rosalita had gone mad. After all, the two families were originally supposed to arrange a marriage. Now their faces are completely broken. Rosalita ignored his shouts entirely. She directly took out the search warrant, starting to read out those thick charges. Embezzlement and tax evasion. The charges of corruption are getting heavier one by one. The Countess has nothing to say now. But it's not over yet. Rosalita added the final blow. "You actually dared to defraud the kingdom in spice trade?" Rosalita directly threw out evidence, documents. Let the Countess see clearly for herself. Now, the other party is completely panicked. They can't figure out how these secrets were leaked. The Countess is still not convinced. Shouting to call for Rosalita's assistant, even brought out her eldest son, saying he is a favorite at the Crown Prince's side. He cried out in innocence, hoping his son could save him. At this moment, in the harem of the Crown Prince, the situation was completely different from what he had anticipated. That eldest son, whom everyone had high hopes for, was kneeling before the Crown Prince, desperately begging for help. But the Crown Prince didn't even turn his head. His tone was so cold it sent shivers down one's spine. He said it was a pity that this person was caught. After all, he doesn't talk much in daily life, but manages okay when it comes to speaking up. It seems this family has completely turned into wives. Prince Charles complains with a carefree expression. Say, because Kashan caused so many problems, it's going to make him suffer another scolding from the Emperor Father. This skill he shows off is first-rate. Kaishian heard and let out a cold laugh. The tone is full of mockery. It's truly heart-wrenching. Clearly he doesn't buy into it at all. Charlie tried a counterattack after his previous attempt failed. The officer in the distance suggested to Kaisen, just take this chance to replace him with someone else. After all, the current officer is just too talkative. Kaisen didn't even lift his head. He directly kicked the ball back. Say, if you don't like looking at him, you can fire him yourself. Finished speaking, Kaisen turned and walked away, not even giving Charlie a single glance. Charlie sat on the table, sighing, leaving without even finishing his meal. This brother is really getting colder and colder. Tari watched Kaisen. There's nothing but a sour taste in his tone. He bluntly says he's extremely eager to do so. He's lying on the table, whining and making a fuss, saying he also wants a pretty secretary to help. Time passes quickly. After a few days, this storm finally came to an end. The once illustrious Arano family expelled from the noble registry forever. This family is completely finished. Rosalita at this moment, busy dealing with piles of follow-up documents. Now everyone can see it clearly. The situation has already been completely controlled by Kai-chan. It seems reporting it early was right. If it followed the original plot development, the royal family is definitely going to suffer a major loss this time. Even the Empress will have to suffer consequences. The situation is finally stabilized now, but Rosalita looked at the newspaper in her hand, and she couldn't feel happy about it at all. The headline on this is simply outrageous. The newspaper boldly declares that the devil from the Eastern Palace saved the empire. Rosalita felt increasingly wronged by the nickname. The name sounded too terrifying to hear. She couldn't help but complain to Cassian about it, saying that the title was extremely unfair to her. But Cassian simply added a calm remark. He said that, indeed, it wasn't very accurate. It should have been written as demons instead. Rosalita went completely crazy now. Why should only I be associated with this reputation? This guy Cassian can actually achieve perfect invisibility. Rosalita tried to think positively. Since the Empress Dowager was involved in this incident, there will definitely be a lot less trouble in the short term. Is it finally my turn for a good life? Although the previous vacation plans fell through, but as long as I can keep this weekend safe, stay at home and get a good sleep, this time I won't count it as a loss. Just when he thought everything was perfect, a familiar voice suddenly sounded out, completely shattering his beautiful dream. Cassian suddenly changed his face demeanor, came straight to his doorstep. He greeted with a smile. Hello. Rosalita is in big trouble now. Looks like this weekend is going to be restless again. Who would have thought that Cassian dyed his hair specially, just to come find Rosalita for a date? This sudden invitation has left Rosalita completely stunned. Observe Rosalita's reaction. Cassian directly pulled out the big guns. Not only does he cover all of Third Sister's overtime allowances, he takes care of all expenses during our dates. Rosalita can't help but complain, thinking he always solves everything with money. But Cassian looks genuinely sincere, saying it's all to express his feelings. Following that, he throws out a major temptation to go to the topmost luxury store in the central business district. Buy everything Rosalita desires. That's where master craftsmen supply goods. Any single item is priceless. Cassian's extravagant move here leaves no room for Rosalita to refuse. Cassian's offensive is too intense. He slightly bent down. His tone was warm and gentle, making it hard to say no. Invite Rosalita on a date formally. Rosalita kept reminding herself, must stay calm, absolutely cannot be intimidated by the scene in front of her. But her body was very honest. He slowly extended his hand, laying it in Cassian's palm. He kept comforting himself in his heart. This is absolutely not because of anything else. It's purely because those coins just now were too tempting. Rosalita instinctively opened her mouth. My lord, I have experience and want to ask. But Cassian directly interrupted. Today, don't call me my lord. Now Rosalita is completely confused. Don't call me my lord. What should that be called? Cassian leans in to remind you. Don't you think you've forgotten? What kind of relationship are we today? That's right, we are husband and wife today. Although it's supposed to be a date, but actually, it's business as usual. We're just pretending for the inspection of the shopping district. Rosalita still felt awkward, even acting. I can't just call you by your name, right? Cassian was quite generous though, saying he didn't mind at all about this. Rosalita grew even more panicked. Calling the prince directly would, Are you trying to get me arrested for insulting the royal family? At this moment, Cassian suddenly called me, Ian. Rosalita didn't react for a moment. He patiently repeated it again. Just call me Ian from now on. This name, Rosalita had never heard of it before. Why is he using this fake identity? Strangely, Ian's name sounds somehow strangely familiar. But Rosalita quickly dismissed the thought. After all, this name definitely has nothing to do with Kaisen himself. He tried calling out, N. Kaisen responded softly, What? Taking advantage of the situation, Rosalita began negotiating conditions. Although I've taken care of a lot of revenge, but lately, I've been working non-stop, not taking a single day off, so don't give me any heavy work today. Cassian helplessly smiled at Ros. You really think too badly of me? He stopped and asked him, What do you think our target is for today? Rosalita tentatively replied as she inspected the shopping area. Cassian shook his head. Is that all? It's a date, right? He gently took Rosalita's hand. Since it was a date, then let's forget about those troublesome things. Come and enjoy yourself with me. My dear lady, since you said it's a date, then fully activate the relaxation mode. The two walked side by side on the bustling street, eye-catching shop windows. Indeed, it makes one temporarily forget those worrying matters. Seeing the exquisite pastries, Rosalita finally showed a long-awaited smile. Cassian also patiently stayed by his side. He even bought a teddy bear for him. This feeling of being spoiled made Rosalita a bit dazed. At this moment, they looked like the most ordinary yet happiest couple in the world. Back on the carriage, the two finally took off their masks and turned back into their true selves. Cassian looks at Rosalita asked hesitantly with the box in her hand. Picked for a while. You just want this? Rosalita is quite satisfied. Of course, I like this pen. Actually, there are many treasures in the store still. For example, designing unique luxury watches, or perhaps a porcelain that is rarely seen in the world. But to Rosalita, those things are too exaggerated, buying it just for it to be a decorative item. Still, a fountain pen is the most practical. You can use it every day. Cassian sighed helplessly and said, Rose, I really can't figure out what you're thinking all the time. Cassian, this guy shouldn't understand me too well. Seeing Rosalita not speaking, Cassian came closer again, teasing him by saying he only picked one gift. Isn't it to find an excuse? Next time, bring you shopping again. Rosalita is now thoroughly anxious. Loudly argue that was a conscience awakening. Okay, do you know how much that pen alone cost me? Although I'm still feeling the pain of the loss in my mouth, but the atmosphere in the carriage suddenly became a bit different. This accelerated heartbeat feeling. Is it because of that expensive pen, or because of this person in front of me? Actually, like this. There's nothing wrong with staying a little longer. Cassian proposes that since we're all out already, why don't we just go have dinner? I heard their meat is especially delicious. The moment I heard there's meat to eat, Rosalita agreed without hesitation. His mind was filled with images of grand feasts. The carriage keeps going straight. Rosalita suddenly felt something was off. Wait, why is this road getting more and more off course? This is definitely not the way to the restaurant. The carriage has completely left the shopping area. Rosalita finally realized what was happening. He stopped in his tracks with a serious expression, looking at Cassian. Come clean. Are you playing with me on purpose? We said we would come out to investigate, but in the end, nothing happened at all. Rosalita just wandered around everywhere as a visitor. The more I think about it, the more I feel guilty. I'm directly saying I won't take my pay for today. Cassian looks innocent. Why? I thought you would like this arrangement. Rosalita looked at the expensive gifts in her hand. His heart was roaring just from these things. It's covered my salary for several months already. Result? This guy actually still says, this pen doesn't count as a formal gift at all. This world of rich people truly left one speechless. Watch Rosalita remain gloomy all the time. Cassian cautiously asked, Don't you feel happy today? Rosalita quickly shook her head. It's not like that at all. Instead, I was just having too much fun. Only then did I feel uneasy inside. This is what you call an investigation? It's clear you're just using work as an excuse. Came out on a date. Cassian looks at him. Finally said the truth, actually. I just wanted to make you, from those never-ending works, relax completely. Rosalita is still in a low valley emotionally. Cassian is being too good to himself. Good enough for him to feel he can't repay it adequately. He was even wondering whether this guy knew at all how valuable the things he gave were. But before he could figure it out, Cassian suddenly leaned in and kissed him right on the cheek. This one move left Rosalita reeling. His mind went completely blank. Cassian is surprisingly calm, he says with a smile. Consider this as advance interest then. The rest we'll talk about later. Rosalita covers her face and takes a while to recover. When did this happen? This guy is really good at teasing. Rosalita's mind is now filled with question marks. He keeps giving expensive gifts and kissing me again. He must have gotten too immersed in the role, thinking he really is the new husband, right? Just as he was daydreaming, Cassian suddenly stopped. His tone became unusually serious, Rosé. There's one more thing. Let's get engaged. Those words were like a bomb. Rosalite stood rooted to the spot, even questioning whether their ears were playing tricks on them. What did you just say? Cassian smiled slightly, very patient, and repeated again. I said, do you want to get engaged? This is going to be a big problem. Originally it was just supposed to be acting, but now he actually wants to play for real. Rosalite is completely off base now. He asked the prince in shock. Shouldn't it be because he's dating someone? That's why he found me to practice how to date. He even started fumbling around, muttering about needing to quickly write down the schedule. Help this future Wang Fei make some room. Kashan looked at him like that. He grabbed his hand directly. His tone was full of helplessness. Just tell you the truth. There's no such person at all. I'm not consulting with anyone else. I'm asking you. He stared into Rosalita's eyes. He laid everything out, word by word. The person I wanted to propose to has always been you. Rosalite was at a loss for words now. He stammered for a long time, unable to say a complete sentence. This is like a bolt from the blue. Rosalite told him to be serious, quickly make things clear. But in the end, he smiled and said, originally wanted to use this method to make him a little moved emotionally. It seems like I messed up. Rosalite doesn't believe me at all. If he really wanted to propose, how could he prepare so carelessly? Kashan admitted quietly. He was indeed hit the nail on the head. Kashan finally revealed the truth. He needs a shield now more than ever. Originally, the Empress had been secretly stirring up trouble behind his back, spreading rumors everywhere, determined to send him off for a marriage alliance with a neighboring country. Rosalite is really going all out now. This plot doesn't match at all. In the original novel, Kashan was indeed sold and became a prince consort, but Ney was clearly a later part of the story. The progress is way ahead of the original script. Things have completely gotten out of control. Kashan stared at Rosalite and said, he never planned to leave the Empire. Rosalite finally understood what he meant. Kashan wants to sign a marriage contract with him. Although she knew his situation was tough, but engagement is something. It's really troublesome to handle afterwards. Just as he was hesitating, Kashan directly threw out a contract, telling him to take a look at the terms first. You don't know until you see it, then you're shocked. The fee is outrageous. Even the severance pay is calculated. Rosalite stared at the contract. The little calculations in my heart are going wild. As long as I sign this paper, the family's debts can all be paid off. Kaizen took the opportunity to push hard, acting like he's indispensable, saying only he can save me. Now, things are complicated. One side is a debt that can be cleared 5 years earlier. One side is the Crown Prince's application notice. Rosalita knew this was a trap, even though, but for that huge sum of money, she still gritted her teeth and agreed to it. Cassian revealed a satisfied smile, directly extending his hand towards him. Once this contract begins, there will truly be no going back. Rosalita hadn't even reacted when her hand was suddenly pulled by Cassian. Then came a cool sensation from his fingertips. A large diamond ring was directly slipped on. Rosalita looked at the sparkling diamond ring on her hand. She almost collapsed in shock. Who would give such an expensive engagement ring at a fake engagement party anyway? Cassian smiled and said, this ring is just a constraint, to keep it tightly by your side. Not long after, this big news couldn't be hidden for long. Second Prince Cassian and Rosalie, the engagement announcement between them, spread like wings throughout the entire city. The Blue Money Hall was packed with people. Everyone was talking about this marriage. After all, this is an official announcement from the royal family. Now the whole world knows about it. The headlines in the newspapers are getting more outrageous each time. What's the strongest demon? Even some people doubt their combination. They claim it's for business efficiency. Cassian watched these reports, but he found them quite interesting. Rosalita couldn't even laugh about this. After all, it's engagement news. The media won't even write a bit of happiness. All these strange descriptions. But thinking from another angle, at least now we can breathe a sigh of relief. In the original storyline, Rosalita was actually trying to climb the social ladder, be verbally torn apart. Now everyone only thinks they are demons teaming up. Those unpleasant rumors actually completely disappeared the current public opinion. Trend has undergone a 180-degree turn. Passers-by were whispering behind their hands. Feel that Rosalita is a pitiful victim, definitely threatened by the second prince at work. I have no choice but to agree to this marriage proposal. Hearing these gossip, Rosalita feels much relieved instead. This kind of forced shot is simply the best shield. Cassian is surprisingly calm. Since the play has reached this point, might as well go all in. He plans to take Rosalita with him. Go fetch that Empress Dowager. Give a big gift. After all, he's letting the princess from a neighboring country wait. Picked Rosalita, who is hardly known of. This pride the royal side will definitely not be able to swallow. Just stepped into the grand hall of the palace. The atmosphere is straight up tense. The Empress erupted on the spot, shouting at Cassian's nose, saying his actions of acting first and asking for permission later were nothing but showing no respect to the royal family. Especially after seeing the official announcement in the newspaper. He thought Kai Shin used to be the most disciplined. Now he is recklessly acting for a woman, which was even more unacceptable to her. Rosalita stood by Kai Shin's side. Turns out she's just a daughter from a struggling family. The Empress became harder to listen to as she spoke on. Publicly humiliated Rosalita when her family was deeply in debt. Deserves not the royal status at all. The Empress grew more agitated as she spoke, even elevating this matter to a national level, accusing Kai Shin is to belittle the entire kingdom. Rosalita stood by, her palms sweating. In this situation, he couldn't really interject. Just as the queen was about to continue putting pressure, the emperor, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke coldly. He directly stopped the queen's accusations. His tone left no room for negotiation. No one expected the emperor to make a public declaration, saying that he never intended for Kaishin to go on an alliance marriage. The empress was completely stunned this time. The situation that she had won with certainty was instantly overturned by the emperor's single sentence. The empress is now thoroughly panicked, still forcing an explanation, saying that everything was for the sake of the kingdom and Kaishin. The emperor isn't buying it at all. His tone was bland yet highly lethal, directly stated the choice for the alliance marriage. It's not like it has to be Kaishin. As soon as these words came out, the empress stood completely stiff. Before the empress could react, the emperor, in front of everyone, officially announced his recognition of this marriage. He even smiled slightly. Congratulations to Kaishin and Rosalita on their engagement. He directly announced that the third prince would be reassigned for an alliance marriage. The empress collapsed right there in shock. Screaming, she tried to make the emperor revoke his decision, but was given a scolding by the emperor instead, saying that as the empress, she should not behave so recklessly. Since you suggested this alliance marriage yourself, now the candidates have been selected. What are you throwing a tantrum for again? Rosalita watched it all clearly from the side. Who doesn't know that Prince 3 is the queen's own son? He was her treasure, held in the palm of his hand. This time, the queen has truly failed miserably. Originally, he wanted to kick Kaishin out, but in the end, he ended up hurting his own foot by lifting a rock. With his own hands, he sent his most beloved son into the fire pit. Kaishin's last hit was absolutely amazing. He deliberately smiled and congratulated the empress. Say Prince 3 can go for an alliance marriage. Truly got an outstanding good job. Late imperial periods, I can't even speak. Can only stare fixedly at him. Kaishin had no intention of giving him any face. Since the main discussion is over, and the emperor's blessing has been obtained, he doesn't want to stay here for another second. He casually hugged Rosalita beside him, announced in front of everyone that he was leaving first. The reason made it impossible for anyone to retort. He said they were currently deeply in love and needed to go back urgently to enjoy their own world together. Just stepped out of the grand hall. Rosalita couldn't help but ask Cassian, "Why is your majesty acting so unusual today?" Surprisingly, they are standing on their side for once. Cassian smiled. He just gave the emperor a heads up in advance. After all, if we are really going to arrange a marriage alliance, the current work must be handed over. He kept the two of them during this time, all processed governmental affairs, and reports filled several hundred pages of documentation, sent everything to the emperor all at once. Cardian's move is indeed ruthless. He is openly telling the emperor, if I send him away, no one is going to do these mountains of work piled up here. Rosalita couldn't believe it after hearing that. Just thinking about those hundreds of pages of documents made his scalp tingle. It seems the emperor was also intimidated by this workload. Rather than losing a son, he clearly fears no one will help him with the work more, Rosalita thought, since Kaizen could handle even the emperor. That contract, does that mean the engagement isn't necessary anymore? He thought he could regain his freedom early, but when Kachian said the next thing, it made his heart jump. Kachian mentioned Wilhelmina. Miss Lopez avoided him. This engagement has to stay. Rosalita heard that name. She was completely stunned. This is a notorious tough guy. In the original novel, Wilhelmina pursued Cassian out of unrequited love, always clinging to him like a bandage that won't come off. Whoever gets close to Cassian, he goes after them. He's the one who, to bully the original main character to the point of being unbearable due to jealousy, the #1 arch-villain in the original work. But strangely, the Duke's family and the Queen, surprisingly, they strongly opposed his feelings. Back then, to make him give up, the family specially sent him to the Royal Academy to let him cool off somewhere else. So, what's the point of such a romance anyway? A change in environment could make good feelings better. But instead, it got worse. Anyway, I have the original script in my hand, so I'm not worried about him coming to bother me. But, Your Highness, Cassian, you're going to have a tough time from now on. Look, trouble is here already. Cassian nods. This situation does indeed require a contract, an engagement to wrap things up. But what he said next left Rosalita completely speechless. He actually easily called out that name. Wilma is really something now. Rosalita couldn't believe her ears. Cassian appears completely calm, saying, "This is just the Mrs. nickname. There's nothing strange about it." But Rosalita knows in her heart, things are definitely not that simple. This sudden closeness always makes one feel something's off. Cassian's expression let Rosalita's heart jump a beat. Does he already suspect? What exactly happened that day? Actually, the name Wilma Little Ming is not the villain at all. Instead, Rosalita was a child. She didn't really look at a fake identity in front of Kaizen. Recalling their first meeting, that wasn't a romantic chance encounter, but a life-and-death accident. At the time, Kaizen's life hung by a thread. Rosetta had no choice. She could only grit her teeth and save him. Back then, to save him, I deliberately deviated from the original script. Not only did I dress up in Wilhelmina's attire, even his name is a shortened version of his own. I thought this disguise was pretty solid. As long as I don't say anything, no one will ever know the truth in this lifetime. But now, seeing Kaizen's silhouette, my heart starts drumming wildly. What did that look just now mean exactly? He couldn't have recognized me. He absolutely couldn't have. Surely I'm just overthinking it. Kaizen smiled and asked, Rose, why have you been staring at me all day today? Could it be because I'm so charming? Now Rosarita was truly speechless. Her heart couldn't help but roar in anger. This guy is really driving me crazy. A few days later, the two returned to the study room. The atmosphere suddenly became serious. The mess in the noble circle. Rosalita has already sorted out the results. The situation is about to change dramatically. Rosalita reported, the queen has been spending money like water recently. The treasury is almost empty. Kaizen chuckled coldly after listening. The grand wedding of Prince 3 is just around the corner. The Empress is clearly digging her own grave. He was just worried about not having an opportunity to act. Now things have turned out like this. The Empress has handed him a chance herself. Just as Rosalita thought the situation was about to be completely reversed, Kaizen suddenly placed a dish. Thick documents were flung over. All of Roselle's remaining work will be handed to you. Now Rosalita is completely overwhelmed. What political maneuvering? Clearly, I'm the hardest working underdog here, facing this endless workload. Rosalita sighed. Looks like today she won't be able to leave on time. Forget about all those thoughts. Just as he was walking dejectedly back, a sudden voice came from behind him, telling him to wait a moment first. The voice was sharp and thin, sounding very familiar to his ears. Rosalita's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that woman again? He suddenly turned his head, and sure enough, it was Wilhelmina. I didn't expect him to return to the palace so quickly. Rosalita approached, asking if there's anything she can help with. Shouldn't he have gotten lost? As soon as those words came out, Wilhelmina instantly went ballistic. Shout loudly to refute getting lost. How could this be possible? He kept his mouth shut toughly while emphasizing, I used to go in and out of the palace since I was young, know every blade of grass and tree here all too well. Rosalita quickly gave him a way down. They say it's because the missus just returned to the palace. I just asked out of boldness. Wilhelmina harumphed, adopting an air of petulance, said she would not bother with him this time. Seeing his expression, Rosalita couldn't help but wonder how this rumored villain was cuter than expected. Wilhelmina suddenly became vigilant again. Is Rosalita also wary of herself? Otherwise, how could she recognize him with just one glance? Rosalita smiled and answered, That's because you are the young miss from a noble family. Who wouldn't know you? Rosalita then switched to praising mode, saying that someone so beautiful with natural hair, could there be anyone else but the young miss? This plea for a kiss directly made Wilhelmina's whole face turn red. He was babbling, yelling not to think that looking good means I'll fall for a few compliments. Looking at his flustered state, Rosalita couldn't help but wonder, how could this person be so simple-minded? It's too easy to deal with. Wilhelmina pointed at Rosalita, struggling to say something ruthless. Say whatever trick you're pulling, I will never give up. Wilhelmina fled in panic, but still couldn't resist throwing a threat behind her, telling Rosalita to wait for him. Rosalita shouted at his retreating figure, You haven't made it clear yet. What exactly are you not giving up on? This miss is too adorable. In the original novel, Wilhelmina's role was a redemption. Compared to the Queen's vicious methods, his bullying is at most just children playing house. Actually, it makes sense when you think about it. He did all of this merely for... It's because I was so lacking in love when I was young. This so-called villain, actually thirstier than anyone, hoped to be noticed. In other people's eyes, he is an unattainable duke's daughter. Actually, it was different. He was just a political tool in the family's hands. At first, he pursued Cassian for political reasons. He followed behind others all day long. As a result, his reputation plummeted dramatically. He became a laughingstock in social circles. Now, the Duke's household and the Queen are furious because he messed up the originally planned arranged marriage. Wilhelmina was instantly demoted from her beloved princess, became a useless wife. Finally, not only was he abandoned by his family, but also framed by the Queen. Lodog's fate was to be expelled to a monastery. This is simply a typical villainous ending. Rosalita couldn't help sighing, feeling that his only mistake was loving the wrong person. It's too pitiful. So previously, Rosselli had intentionally disguised himself as him. Just wanted to help this poor girl reclaim her life that belonged to her. Rosetta silently vowed in her heart, this lifetime she would absolutely not let Wilhelmina suffer as the original assistant did again. Even if it's just me, I must still protect her well. But ideals are so full-bodied, reality has given him a headache. Because how events unfolded completely exceeded his expectations. Rosalita originally wanted to take a gentle approach, praise Wilhelmina for being a kind person. As expected, the miss didn't appreciate it, and loudly proclaimed that she would never be bought by such words. Seeing Wilhelmina alone again, Rosalita proactively invited him for dinner together. Who knew that Wilhelmina ran off like her tail was stepped on, while shouting that she wasn't lonely at all and didn't even look back. Now Rosalita is completely at a loss. Clearly I wanted to be nice to him. As a result, Wilhelmina moved even farther away. It seems we want to tame this proud and stubborn miss. Still need to put in some effort. Busy handling official business. Cassian suddenly said, Ros. I'm a little jealous. Rosalia was completely stunned. She couldn't react at all. What is this prince doing again? Cassian's tone was full of grievance as he said, Rosalia has been paying too much attention to Wilhelmina lately. After all, he is the legitimate fiancé. Shouldn't he be saying more sweet nothings to him instead? Rosalia was being polite on the surface. He was mentally ranting crazy inside, forcing subordinates to say insincere flattery. This is just workplace harassment. Besides, although Wilhelmina can be arrogant and spoiled, at least she's cute enough to look at. As for that Missy, can't she understand his feelings a bit? Rosalita isn't in any hurry at all, so time is still long ahead. I originally thought everything was under control, but this next scene left Rosalita utterly dumbfounded. In the magnificent banquet hall, suddenly came a shout of surprise. Everyone's gaze froze. Who would have thought? That notorious Wilhelmina actually stood in front, letting the red wine drip down her skirt. The gathered nobles were all outraged. Everyone was whispering quietly. Could he have been protecting Rosalita from this glass? Looking at the scene before him, Rosalita felt like her CPU was about to overheat. What's going on here exactly? Want to know the truth? The time has to go back a few hours earlier. Tonight's banquet is extraordinary. It's all for welcoming the future queen, who will be Kaisen's fiancée. Rosalita is no longer attending as the young baron's daughter, but as a new identity. This display is no joke. Is this the right of the unmarried wife? It's utterly luxurious. And he discovered something else, but the necklace around his neck is really too extravagant. It turns out it was the former empress's relic. Cassian noticed his unease. Ask him what's wrong with that expression, Rosetta. Remember the contract from before? Just by becoming his fiancée, all treatments will be given to him. Cassian, however, has a look of casual indifference. Says he can give it away any time. The weight of this gift is terrifying. Cassian is serious this time, even moved out his own mother, saying this was originally meant for him. Rosalita, despite not speaking, but kept her mind clear all along, absolutely could not be led into the trap by him. He took a step back, saying that this item could only be considered borrowed once the contract ends. He will immediately joke that he is too heartless, but the formal matter is important. The two decide to act separately, right away. The next task is to thoroughly understand the backbone of these nobles. Rosalita sensed something off as soon as she entered the scene. All the surrounding nobles were avoiding her, not even daring to make eye contact. It seems the Prince Demon's reputation is too bad. Everyone treats him like a plague god. Nobody wants to approach and talk to him. Now, information gathering has completely stalled. Just as he was at his wit's end, suddenly a voice came from behind him. Someone actually dared to call him by his name. No one expected. Wilhelmina actually blocked in front of Rosalita. Everyone around was completely stunned. This is going to be a big trouble now. The situation has completely spiraled out of control. No one expected Wilhelmina would actually step forward. To publicly scold that woman who had been there for a long time, and the other party still wanted to bring up their status, just wanted to give Rosalita a lesson, to make him realize his place. Wilhelmina sneered. Since you're so fond of talking about status, then I'll show you what true hierarchy is all about. Wilhelmina truly was someone who spoke little but acted tough. Directly poured the wine back at him. The arrogant countess's daughter from just now. This has now become the laughingstock of the entire venue. He stood there dumbfounded, not daring to move at all. Wilhelmina spilled the wine and turned to leave immediately. He had no intention of giving the other party any face. Without a word, he pulled Rosalita and left together. His actions were decisive and efficient. Rosalita was completely stunned. He has no clue about the current situation. He can only let the other person pull him along. He feels a low point in his heart. Or is he supposed to follow suit? Wilhelmina says nothing. Where exactly is she taking her? The domineering Wilhelmina just now. Now she sighs helplessly. This woman is actually quite cute in her usual demeanor, even a bit shy, making it easy for people to lower their guard. But don't be fooled by her appearance. As the most dangerous antagonist in the original story, the overwhelming presence she just displayed is truly who she is at heart. Rosalita didn't expect. This rumored villain actually went this far just for himself. He quickly offered an apology and even wanted to repay the other party. But Wilhelmina was stunned instead. His speech started to become a robbery, saying no need for repayment, just wanting Rosalita to accompany him for afternoon tea. Finally, he couldn't help but bring up Caxian's name. This isn't a threat at all. It's practically forcing an excuse for a date. Rosalita agreed rather quickly. Who would have thought that plans can't keep up with changes? What was supposed to be a smooth investigation is now completely ruined. Rosalita is now about to collapse. Originally, she thought they could take a break. The workload suddenly piled up like a mountain. It's all because of Princess Alexis. He prepared for the wedding with Prince Third, decided resolutely to stay directly in the Empire. Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is really in a frenzy. Everyone has to keep going non-stop. It seems we can't have this tea anytime soon. Rosalita is currently in a mess with her work. He didn't even have time for lunch, let alone tea. But suddenly, a voice came from behind him and called him right out. The sound was too familiar to be ignored. Turning around, it was Alexis. Princess. Truly, speaking of the devil, here he is. The other party got straight to the point as soon as they spoke, asking if he was the betrothed of second prince's son. This princess is too familiar already. She's forcing a date right from the start. Rosalita hadn't even reacted yet, but she was already sitting in Prince III's palace. Thought it would just be a regular social lunch. But Alexis started talking increasingly strangely. He stared at Rosalita and said, "The scenery here suits you very well. This sounds so seductive." Rosalita was completely dumbfounded by this. She couldn't figure out this princess at all. What kind of medicine is she selling in her gourd? The way this princess thinks truly leaves one guessing. He swore with conviction that he had already investigated everything thoroughly. Result, he spoke shocking words. Say why the yellow sun engaged in marriage. It's all because of Rosalita's beauty. Fallen in love. Rosalita stood there in shock after hearing that. My heart is full of questions about what the heck is going on here. It's completely off the charts. Rosalita finished listening and was left speechless, hastily explaining that this is all a misunderstanding. But the other party simply wouldn't accept it, directly asking if it's not because of my face. Why would anyone look at you? Now Rosalita has also become firm. Of course, it's because I have ability. Alexis listened and then let out a cold laugh, replied sarcastically, "Is this really not from you? An excuse for outsiders?" Alexis suddenly suggested letting Rosalita go with him to a place, and the destination turned out to be the East Palace. Before the other party could react, Alexis directly pushed open the door. He pointed at the Rosalita behind him, saying he was going to borrow this woman. Cashin laid down the document in his hand. His tone carried a hint of displeasure. Said Rosalita truly has good skills, actually managed to attract attention outside again. He forbade himself from approaching Rosalita, hugged her waist with one arm. His action was so domineering it left no room for refusal. He whispered, wishing he could keep someone like you by his side. I really don't know what to do. Finally, he grasped Rosalita's hand. His tone was full of wronged, complaining that Rosalita had been too harsh on him. To avoid giving herself away, Rosalita could only force herself to act, intentionally clinging to Cassian and acting spoiled, saying she was entirely the Lord's. He had long collapsed inside, if not to pretend for the princess beside him. Who would want to act affectionate here anyway? Alexis watched enough of their act from the side. He smiled and said he wasn't here to snatch anyone, but had a bolder idea instead. He suggested they swap their deputies, rotate their subordinates for a month. The reason is straightforward. To understand a person's bottom, just look at the people around them is enough. Now Kaisen fully understood. The other party wants to directly probe his bottom now, Kaisen. Ding! There was a hint of danger in the other party's tone. Asking for such a requirement really has big appetites. Alex the Taoist is not at all intimidated. He smiles and says, there's nothing he can do. Why did he have such a piercing gaze? He really can't bear to let go. Before Kaisen could even regret it, he directly sealed the deal. As he leaves, he still can't help but remind Rosalita, come pick up the person on time tomorrow. Watching Alexis gracefully leave, Rosalita swore the whole time. A million regrets in her heart. This isn't going to be a deputy's duty. This is clearly jumping into a fiery pit. Sure enough, the days that followed were anything but peaceful. The ink bottle was smacked and fell with a snap. Black ink splattered all over the floor. The son of noble birth says sorry with his mouth, but his eyes are full of provocation, and he even warns Rosalinta sarcastically, you'd better watch where you're stepping next time. Rosalinta knows exactly what's going on inside. This guy is definitely looking for trouble. Ever since he followed the princess, this brat is always going out of his way to antagonize him. Planting thorns and pricking needles with endless chatter is really giving me a headache. Such trivial matters. He couldn't run over to complain to the princess either. This silent loss seems like it can only be held in by himself for now. This son of a noble family is really out of luck now. He has always wanted to rise above in front of the princess. Result now, Rosalita has become a celebrity. Alexis doted on him all the time. He could only grit his teeth from behind, feeling that Rosalita took his place. This extreme jealousy practically overflowed the screen. At the same time, Cassian's life wasn't easy over here. The deputy officer Alexis swapped over was exhausted every day. They both lacked energy even as they pushed the door open to come in. Kaisen said tiredly, although he was speaking, but his heart was constantly sighing. After looking around, Rosalita was still the most useful at home. Rosalita was buried in hard work, thinking only about overtime pay. Anyway, they would be going back after a month. Now all the hard work is just to save money. Tachian watched from the side for a moment, then walked over and asked him to stretch out his hand. Before Rosalita could react, a string of sparkly things appeared on his wrist. This wasn't just any gesture, but a string of magical treasures. Rosalita was completely stunned. I don't understand what your highness means by this. Kaizen's tone is gentle and warm. He says you look too tired lately. Could it be that you've been wronged outside? He hit the nail on the head with this question right away. Rosalita also stopped hiding. She directly said that extended son is indeed annoying, tripping him up behind his back every day. I thought it was just some minor skirmishes. We just need to ignore it. But Kaizen's next words instantly dropped the atmosphere to freezing point. He said, "This isn't as simple as it seems. The son of a noble family has been rather inactive lately, even secretly aligned himself with the queen. This nature completely turned into a scheming noble son. Adding to that, the queen who holds sway over the court. These two together are plotting something." Kaizen made his intentions clear. The family heir's thoughts are all on his face. He wants to exhaust the harem of the princess. But this requires Kaizen's approval first. So this brat immediately went to find the queen. The two agreed instantly. The empress had long regarded Kaizen as a thorn in her side. She was just glad she found the right opportunity to strike. But Kaizen wasn't at all worried about it. He even laughed out loud, saying that the dream of Prince Gaishi should come to an end, because the princess had very peculiar tastes. The princess favored those who looked good on the outside, but a brainless buffoon, like Jiashi's son, this scheming man, simply isn't the princess's type. Rosalita intentionally teased Kaizen by saying, even if it were him proposing instead, that guy would still be dumped. Kaizen is quite confident in his own face. He really believes he's got game, he said while doing something else. One side suddenly leaned close to Rosalita's face. This is too close. He stared into Rosalita's eyes and asked, "Does he see me as nothing? Don't you have any charm at all?" Rosalita was completely stunned. Before he could react, "Doesn't it mean I'm not pretty?" Rosalita eventually gave up, whispered and reluctantly admitted. Rosalita couldn't hold back. Kaizen has always been quite handsome. As soon as the words left his mouth, he regretted it, thought he must have lost his mind, actually flirted with this prince right in front of him. Kaizen didn't get angry after hearing that. Instead, he smiled even more brightly. Taking advantage of Rosalita not reacting yet, he directly leaned down and kissed her. Kaizen said with a smile still on his face, "Since you like pretty things so much, then he will definitely put in more effort from now on. Absolutely won't let Rosalita get tired of it. Say in the future you will be his fiancé. Please take good care of Rosalita and watch over her." Kaizen smugly turned his back. Rosalita touched the place that was kissed. That mental barrier has completely collapsed. The next morning, the atmosphere in Palace Dawn seems a bit off. Rosalita was just about to go do some business. Someone walked alone in the empty corridor. Just then, a sudden rebuke came from behind him, freezing him in his tracks. Turning around to see the son of noble birth standing in the doorway with a stern face, his arms crossed, clearly refusing to let him pass. Kaizen, indeed, guessed right. These people are indeed always watching them. Rosalita no longer avoids checking the letters, directly asking him what he really wants to do. As soon as he opens his mouth, there's nothing good. Tell Rosalita to stop playing dumb. Say that Princess Alexis treated him so well, yet he is an ungrateful scoundrel, even defaming Rosalita. Every night, reporting to Prince Cassian, leaking secrets to him, selling out the kingdom's secrets entirely. Rosalita not only didn't panic after listening, but suddenly saw through the truth. Turns out, all this nonsense was given by the queen to Gashi. The situation instantly reversed itself. Rosalita sneered back with a cold laugh. Shouldn't you ask yourself this? Truly doing something behind everyone's back? The person who secretly met the empress? Who in the end? Now it's the family stone's son who is taken aback. He never thought it would happen. The deepest secret you've hidden away. Surprisingly, Rosalita figured it out long ago. Rosalita didn't have time to chat with him, just get straight to the point about his activities abroad. The dirty deeds of secretly pulling strings. Rosalita deliberately sighed, saying that if Princess Alexis knew her most trusted person was actually behind such a deal, the consequences are unimaginable. This sentence became the final straw that broke the camel's back. He was so scared he fell to his knees on the spot, crying and sniffling as he begged for mercy. Don't let the princess know about this. Didn't you just boast quite confidently a moment ago? Since you're trying to threaten him with all these empty words, then we should settle this score properly. Rosalita bent down to pick up the suggestion. Instead of begging for mercy here, it would be better to negotiate a real deal in another way. Watching his desperate escape form behind, Rosalita sneered inwardly. This guy almost caused a big trouble. Really thinks that any random noble can come and find their flaws? Just then, Rosalita turned her head to look at the dark corner beside her and asked the person hiding there if they had heard everything just now. Alexis walked out boldly, his tone filled with approval, saying that Rosalita was indeed worthy of being by the crown prince's side. This method truly was impressive. Alexis crossed his arms. A playful smile appeared on his face. Since overtime has already solved it, the next target to deal with, is it his mother-in-law's turn next? Since the other party has already given away their deceit, then decisive action must be taken. This can also catch Grandma's wrongdoing. You can also get rid of Family 10 at the same time. It's like killing two birds with one stone. He promised to offer a generous reward. Rosalita smiled and agreed, although reluctantly. But her heart suddenly gave a jolt. This princess's gaze is exactly the same as Kaizen's. This feeling is truly chilling. Outside the palace at night, son of a noble family wanders alone. At this moment, a cold voice came from behind. blame him for daring to meet secretly in such a place. Son of a noble family apologized hastily, with his head lowered in fear. The matter is too urgent to delay, must discuss with him in person, Your Majesty the Queen. He said their private transactions were almost discovered by Princess Alexis, but the Queen had a calm expression on her face, thinking that, as long as there was no evidence, no one could do anything to him. A son of noble birth knew very well this woman relied on her exalted status. He didn't even consider this scandal at all. But what he said next instantly reversed the situation. Not only did a servant witness everything that day, but they even brought a magical recording device. The worst part was, the recording clearly stated the Queen had once ordered to eliminate Rosalita. As the son of a noble family tightly held onto the recording, this is conclusive evidence that could ruin the Queen's reputation. Originally, the Empress was high and mighty, now she's completely breached. He roared in sheer anger and frustration, asking him what he wants now. Watching the other person lose control, the son of the 10th family instead showed a victorious smile. Everything indeed turned out as Rosalita expected. As long as the Empress loses her composure, the next plan will be completely under control. Rosalita had long seen through the Empress's thoughts. To cover up the scandal, the other party would definitely rush to make conditions. Actually, the idea of making a recording was given by Rosalita herself, but he had no intention of sharing this credit, mocked the other for being a fool. Now he has completely taken the initiative. Not only did he make an enormous demand, wanting hands to deal with Rosalita and that servant, and even had the nerve to suggest, after the matter is resolved, he should be rewarded. Before he became the prince's favorite male companion, the Empress now just wants to quickly shut everyone up. She can only agree with a face full of impatience, saying she will definitely keep her promise. Who could have thought? The third prince, unexpectedly at this time, bringing Princess Alexis with him and exposed the Empress's secret deal right on time. Now the Empress is completely panicking. Originally, he was still figuring out how to manipulate others, but in the end, his own son caught him off guard. Prince Third clearly got very angry, accusing the Empress of overstepping in public, even calling Stone's son a pretty boy, saying Alexis could only love him alone. As Prince Third continued to get more and more agitated, to the point of wanting to expose the Empress's past, how to deal with those troublesome black histories, the Empress consort was so scared she quickly reached out to cover his mouth. If we keep going like this, the royal face will be completely lost. Alexis changes his expression faster than flipping a book. As he said, "What a pity," he directly acted. Seizing the recording in the noble's hand, Master grabbed it over. He only realized it at this moment. You were treated like a monkey by Rosetta, that woman from the very beginning. There was never any intention for him to come out of this unscathed. Alexis smiles and suggests, "Since we've gotten this far with our conversation, why not change places? Let's continue our deep chat for 4 of us, the family son next to us, and the Empress. We're already not lighthearted by this scene." On the other side, Rosalita looked at the faraway commotion, still calculating in her mind if she could also catch the evidence of the Empress's disfavor, all in one go. That would be perfect. Kaizen finished listening, can't help but tease that his appetite is really big. It's almost as if he wants to completely drain the other person. Rosalita remains calm on her face, corrects that this isn't called greed, this is called pursuing efficiency in handling affairs. Tassian reminds Rosalita with a serious expression, must be more steady in actions. If too much short-term gain is pursued, all previous efforts were wasted. He even casually mentioned something else. It turns out Rosalita taught him that herself. As a result, Rosalita stood there, stunned, completely forgetting when she said it. But now there's no time to dwell on this. This temple in front of us is the main event from here on out. Who would have thought this is where the Queen used to hide her money in Laos? Cassian was clear about this. The princess definitely had her eyes on this juicy prize long ago. As long as they find the right opportunity to expose it, they can seize the Queen's assets all at once. It seems like the next action is when true patience will be tested. Cassian determined with a wicked smile that Queen, who has done nothing but evil, you'll eventually show your true colors. Rosalita is helping with the gun beside her. Feel like as long as the princess is in front, shielding us, this time it will definitely make the Empress regret it. Carry me, Rosalita suddenly realized as they were chatting. He stared at Cassian, asking if he even included me in his plans. Cassian was being so honest it was scary. He directly talked about local recognition. From the moment the princess decided to bring Rosalita, he had already set up everything. Next, it was Rosalita's turn to be taken aback. Turns out Cassian had it all planned out beforehand. If the operation goes wrong, this black pot can be firmly blamed on the princess. It's hard to say. This man is truly cunning and calculating. Even his own people can be used as pawns. In Cassian's plan, that seemingly kind princess is not only Rosalita's best shield, it was even more of a deadly blow in Empress Xiao's strategy. But after Rosalita heard it, she couldn't cheer up at all. He directly lashed out at Cassian, complaining about such a big matter. He had been kept in the dark for so long. The more Rosalita spoke, the more wrong she felt. She felt that she had always poured her heart and soul into him. Every trivial matter had to be reported, resulted in. The other party didn't consider him a genuine partner at all. Originally thought Kaizen would argue as usual, but unexpectedly, He remained silent for a moment. For the first time, lowered his head and said, "Sorry." No one expected the usually cold Kaizen. He hugged Rosalita unexpectedly. He whispered, I just want to give Rosalita a little bit of breathing space." Deep down, he was actually very clear about it. He couldn't really offer Rosalita true stability. That's why he wanted to use his princess identity to shield Rosalita from those troublesome consequences. This might be the only gentleness he can offer. But Rosalita did not get lost in this ambiguity. He directly reached out and pushed Kaijin away. Rosalita told him, word by word, that she was not a frail woman who couldn't withstand anything, and didn't need this self-proclaimed protection. This time, Rosalita showed quite an authoritative demeanor. He stared directly into Kaijin's eyes and said, "Since you hired me as an assistant, then please shut up. Just watch carefully how I handle this." After hearing that, Kaijin was stunned for a moment, then slowly leaned in close to his ear. His tone suddenly became unusually suggestive. He said, "If what you're saying is true, don't you plan to? Will you take full responsibility for the second half of my life?" With these words spoken, Rosalita nearly fainted on the spot. He was clearly talking about brotherhood in arms, seriously. Result, this guy is starting to act completely unserious again. Although caution stirred things up like this, the atmosphere became a bit silly. But fortunately, the next plan will be better. It finally progressed smoothly. This counterattack is so damn satisfying. This unlucky son of a noble family was directly exiled. Even the Empress, who was always high and mighty, this time it was also because of a leak from private dealings, is facing the risk of having to eat what he can't finish and carry the rest. Rosalita is basking in the joy of victory. Alexis suddenly handed over a letter, saying it was specifically prepared as his reward. Rosalita was stunned at the time. In his view, being able to see the queen get flattened with his own eyes was already the best reward. Could anything be more exciting than this? Alexis smiled and gestured for him to quickly open it. Seems like the content of this letter. This is today's real main event. Rosalita's icy hand gripped the envelope. "The heart is still in a low valley. I don't know the princess. What kind of medicine is in this gourd?" This is Kaisen, looking at the girl in front of him. Can't help but marvel at Rose. "You look genuinely very happy. Rosella isn't thinking about anything else. Her eyes are all on the treasure in her hand. This is simply too beautiful. No wonder it's Alexis. The princess has great taste in aesthetics. Who would have thought that the envelope sent by the princess contains 3 generous gifts? One is the kingdom's detention permit. The other is even more exaggerated. It turns out to be a deed of transfer for a building in the capital city. This isn't just a gift. This is like giving a mountain of gold. The last gift is a panoramic painting of the inner building." Rosalita looked at the mansion in the painting, already starting to imagine living there. Caution immediately saw through his thoughts. Your desire to go to the kingdom is written all over your face. He was very clear in his mind. Princess Alexis really went all out to win Rosalita's favor. This time, she truly spared no expense. Rosalita realized her performance was too obvious. Might as well go with it for now. Planning to challenge the man before him. "To live in such a place has always been my dream. If the conditions allowed, I would move there right now." Cassian leaned closer, his tone carrying a hint of wronged. "Don't you really want to stay in the kingdom and leave me here alone?" Looking at him like that, Rosetta immediately softened, quickly explaining that, "I was just joking around. Don't worry so much about it." He thought this was just a joke, but didn't notice that Cassian's expression had changed. Rosetta said, "Really?" knowing nothing yet. He suddenly reached out his hand. Cassian suddenly leaned in close. His voice was so low it made my heart skip a beat. He said, "I really do yearn for you." This sudden confession left Rosalita completely stunned. What's going on here? Didn't he usually love to joke around the most? But looking at his expression, Rosalita's heart skipped a beat. She always felt like he seemed really sad today. To break this awkward silence, Rosalita quickly pointed to his pocket, intentionally shouting loudly about, "My precious salary, it's all here in your possession." Though it ruined the mood, at least she managed to change the subject. Caution followed his words with a playful remark. "Teasing isn't wrong. All your favorite money is right here." Rosalita could only awkwardly smile along. Heart was wildly complaining. These days, even as a worker, you have to constantly act out the script for your boss. It's really not easy. During the tug of war between the two, the stage of the story has quietly shifted to the Andung Kingdom. That is the homeland of Princess Alexis, a place filled with art and beauty everywhere. It seems that the weather is about to change again. The art exhibition in the Andung Kingdom is famously sought after throughout the empire. Everyone wants a slice of the pie. Especially the reigning empress, who had long set her sights on these exhibition rights, was just planning to seize them for herself. But who could have thought Princess Alexis would actually at this critical moment hand over this juicy piece directly to Rosselli? He said that all the exhibition rights would now belong to you. Rosalita is really stepping up now. This isn't a reward at all. This is clearly roasting him over an open flame, making him face the queen head on. Cassian finally got it now. Just because he used the princess once before, now they're directly throwing sudden wealth his way. Rosalita also knew that drumming was involved. That queen's temper, definitely hiding in the shadows to trip us up. Caution paused for a moment. Rather than becoming abnormally resolute, he said this time, "Let me be your shield. The situation is already a complete mess." The Empress Dowager was forced to marry the third prince off. He must be absolutely furious by now. I'm worried there's nowhere to vent my anger. Caution is very clear about this. Absolutely cannot let Rosalita take this risk. Moreover, the princess tried to steal Rosalita away. He has already declared war on us formally. Cassian looked at Rosalita. The tone conveys seriousness. He said he would prove it to me. How deep are my feelings for you? But they hadn't even had a chance to be affectionate for much longer. Trouble found you. The door was locked that very night. The Empress suddenly sent someone to invite them for dinner. This is not an ordinary dinner. It's clear it's a setup meal, a trap. The atmosphere at the table was as cold as ice. Everyone had their own hidden agenda. Rosalita knew very well in her heart the queen would never invite guests for no reason. She called him here with such urgency. It must be because of that royal exhibition right. Seems like this meal isn't over yet. The other party is about to make a move. The dinner party had just begun. The emperor started asking with insinuations right away. He heard that during the national wedding period, you got along very well with Princess Alexis, huh? Cassian remained calm. He said it was just more opportunities to meet, just barely acquainted each other. The other party immediately threw out a big bombshell. Ask if it's because of this relationship with the princess that she handed over the entire royal exhibition to him. The princess completely entrusted the royal exhibition to him. Kaizen put down his utensils. Not only did he respond quickly, no mistake. The princess said she is the person he trusts the most. That's why she entrusted these treasures to me. Finally, he added one more thing. I'm very glad that the princess has such good judgment in people. This statement, the empress beside was at a loss for face. This isn't about eating. This is clearly humiliating them in public. With this statement, the empress could no longer sit still. She suddenly slammed the table, scaring those around her to quickly intervene. Kaizen has finally come out into the open. This time, he said he wanted to live up to the princess's trust. He planned to bring people to manage these exhibits personally. It looks like the hard approach isn't working. He immediately switched tactics. Sighing, he said, I'm really worried about this. He started cooling down. Kaizen in public, saying you're indeed great at handling affairs and warfare, but how could you possibly understand art? Who will be responsible if something goes wrong? He posed like an expert. Art is very delicate. You're asking for high-level requirements for the weather and location. Can you pull it off? As a complete novice, this is plain and obvious. Trying to get management rights back with a professional excuse. The Empress's acting is really great. He looks at me with all sincerity and says that he is a royal consort. It's genuinely wanting to help Prince. Kaizen gave a cold laugh after hearing that. Questioned back if I was sure I wanted his help. The Empress quickly chimed in. He says his family manages artworks. That's an old established shop, very experienced. He did this all for Kaizen's good. Rosalita watched from the side with a cold eye, thinking to himself, these words sound really nice. Don't know about those who don't know. They might actually think he cares a lot about Kaizen, but in reality, the old fox has very different plans behind his back. His family does indeed do business in art pieces, but their true purpose was to secretly transfer this exhibition right to the desert-providing country. This is not helping at all. This is clearly trying to sell Kaizen out and make him help count the money too. Kaizen elegantly cuts the steak, yet she, retorted in a sly and sarcastic manner. To be treated as loyal subjects by your majesty is truly overwhelming. I am genuinely honored. After the dinner party ends, as soon as the two return to the office, Rosalita exploded completely. He said these people are really shameless. Kaizen, on the other hand, took it in stride. Isn't this exactly what we anticipated? Rosalita still can't let go of this grudge. He said that the other person actually dared to appear in front of the emperor, publicly summon us. This is for negotiation. This is clearly blackmail that can't be refused. The way these people eat is really too ugly to watch. It's obvious he just wanted to humiliate me in public, take away the power in Kaizen's hands. Rosalita looks at Kaizen, muttered softly. You look better than usual today, although you have a plan. But my heart still isn't sure. Kaizen smiled after hearing that. Intentionally teasing him to see if you're worried about me. Rosalita didn't dodge this time. He went straight to the point. He said, of course, since you're personally handling this. How could he not be worried? Kaizen was stunned for a moment, looking at Rosalita in front of him. His gaze softened immediately. He sighed softly and said, Rosalita, you really have me at a loss. This moment, the originally tense atmosphere seems to suddenly have a hint of sweetness added to it. Kaizen unfastened his cufflinks. He looked particularly weary overall. He said softly, I'm a bit tired. This might be the only time he can let down his guard. He looked at Rosalita before him. There are actually many things I want to say in my heart. He is very clear about ensuring Rosalita's safety. Someday, he will have to send him away, back to that peaceful territory. But right on this day, right at this moment, he really doesn't want to let go. He just wants this girl to stay by his side, even if just for a rest. These doubts and dependencies Rosalita might never know, but in Kaizen's heart, he was no longer just an assistant. Kaizen sat alone. He knew better than anyone that mad queen. He never considers the consequences when he acts. He must protect all of this. Absolutely cannot let the situation collapse. He thought about that girl again. He might have already forgotten everything from before. Long ago, to the point where not a trace remains, even those important memories. Only he still remembers them. So this feeling hidden in his heart, he can only suppress it tightly now. Even if it's incredibly painful, he still has to bear it alone. The next morning, the atmosphere at Donggu Palace completely changed. Cassian and the Rosalita attended dressed in full regalia. This setup clearly indicates they are going to handle something important. Cassian compliments you by smiling and saying you look really beautiful today. Rosalita is not at all humble. That's natural. After all, today I am no longer your assistant. Rather than as a mere princess's lady-in-waiting, go meet that duke. This identity switch. The next part of the performance is going to be interesting. This is the Empress's own younger brother, Duke Jamotiti. He's known as an old fox. He's a very difficult person to deal with. As soon as he appears, he greets with words. But his eyes are full of provocation. The Duke smiles and says, "Your Highness actually brought Miss Alice too. Looks like you're trying to make your debut before it's officially announced. Bring him over to polish the princess's etiquette a bit." This is just polite talk on your part. In reality, it's giving him a taste of who's in charge here. Dislikes Rosalita because she hasn't seen big events before. This Count Jamoto used to be a core figure under Li Yi, a well-known old fossil, has always had an aversion to Rosalita. As expected, this old fox started looking for trouble right from the start, trying to intimidate people with etiquette issues. Rosalita won't fall for that trick. He smiled and replied, "Oh, actually, I made my debut at the royal ball last year. Didn't your majesty tell you that?" Bringing out a big support here poisoned the duke's words directly. He held it in for a long time, can only coldly spit out a sentence. "I won't talk to you anymore. Now it's this lord who is embarrassed." Forsleta's words were nothing but a slap in the face to the duke. "Pinned me with a soft spike," he said. "This trivial matter doesn't even deserve your highness's personal attention. To block these troubles for your highness was originally part of his duties anyway." The way he said it was flawless. The duke fumbled for something to say, could only cough awkwardly. Forced the topic back to business. He said he came today to inspect other management, exhibited treasures. Let's see how these royal treasures are preserved. The group walked into the spacious exhibition hall. Although it appeared to be an inspection, but everyone knew this old fox must have something up his sleeve. Tachian is not here to check on the treasures at all. He's just here to show off their affection. He asked Rosetta if her feet were tired, as if no one else was around. If he couldn't walk anymore, he could just carry him directly. Rosetta couldn't help but laugh so hard she had to hold her mouth. The two of them were sweetly walking together. It really made Duke Garmity behind them furious. This old fox finally couldn't resist reminding the prince. Prioritize official duties. Don't forget how important this exhibition is. Result, Kaisen didn't even turn his head, directly threw the blame over. He said, "Wasn't it the Duke's job to conduct a thorough inspection?" He thought the Empress sent the Duke here just so he could have a quiet date with Roselli and not cause any trouble. He didn't forget to act upset. It seems in Roselli's heart, work is much more important than him, this prince. Now the Duke has become nothing but a light bulb. He still has to lead the way with a heavy heart in front. Kaisian suddenly asked Rosalita whether she thought the Duke was completely untrustworthy. Rosalita sighed. She directly hugged a big watermelon. He said he recently found out while checking documents that second son of the Duke's family. Surprisingly, it's due to the work intensity being too great. Just ran away from home. End up with a boss like this. Who would dare trust him? These words were heard by the Duke precisely. He awkwardly wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl into. Could only stammer out in whispers. That all has its reasons. Kaisen doesn't care about any of that. He praised Rosalita for her attentiveness on one hand, while smoothly pushing the Duke into a fit, breaking his room in the process. The Duke shouted for them to hurry up and go on a date, rushing off to check the exhibits himself. Kaisen didn't forget to add another cut behind him, instructing him to be extra careful. Don't let Rosalita counterattack anymore. Removing the Duke not only lost face, but also had to obediently work as a laborer. The troublesome person has finally left. Kaisian immediately changed his expression to a negative one, gently told Rosalita to take his time browsing. He could stay as long as he wanted, but when he turned around, he gave the Duke another set of attitude. He coldly demanded the Duke, "Since all the exhibits have been viewed, then hand in the report now." The Duke was really pushing his luck. He quickly found an excuse, denies and says organizing the materials will take time and couldn't produce them now. But Kachin wasn't buying it at all. He didn't even glance at the Duke, just called Rosalita over directly. From the looks of it, he's planning to have the Duke hand in his homework on the spot. The Duke was just making excuses about not having enough time earlier, but as soon as Rosalita started speaking, she immediately revealed the perfect answers. Not only did he finish looking at all the exhibits, but he even figured out which shopkeeper had a problem. He remembers every detail clearly. This professional delivery, it left the nearby Duke speechless. He originally wanted to slack off, but now it's turned into a public execution. Roselita elegantly reported back, and she also prepared the subsequent rectification plan. Everything was all set. This efficiency is simply impeccable. Kachin watches from the side, still doesn't forget to deliver the final, hardest blow. He pretends to be very puzzled, saying how the Queen clearly praised the Duke for being more reliable in handling things. So why does it seem completely different now? Now the Duke has no words left to say. His face is both red and swollen from the beating. The Duke is now thoroughly furious. He points at Roselita and shouts, insisting he had previewed the materials beforehand, intentionally embarrassing him in front of everyone, even calling his methods despicable. Just as he was frantically pouring dirty water, Kachin suddenly interrupted him coldly. He only said 5 words, future young Zafei. The entire Duke was rendered speechless. Before he could react, Kachin has already gotten close to him, ask him, word by word, isn't this title for me, a Duke? Are the proper etiquettes there? Kachin even dug up old accounts. The Duke was called that way back then. Suddenly, the Crown Prince's unmarried wife's, how did it get to Roselita's place? Begins to act dumb now. Now, not only did the Duke lose face, the appliement hit a steel wall. Kachin is publicly declaring this. Who dares to touch Roselita will make him angry. Kachin opens his mouth. They directly put a big hat on the Duke. He questioned the Duke whether he was intentionally humiliating him and his fiancée. The Duke is now completely panicked, quickly finding excuses to defend himself, saying that the lady comes from a distinguished family and is even the legitimate fiancée of the Crown Prince. Their social statuses are completely different. Since this marriage was personally arranged by the Emperor himself, then what are you doing now? It's using one's own standards. Are you questioning the Emperor's decision? No one could have expected this. The Crown Prince Charles surprisingly appeared at this moment. The Duke, who was untouchable just now he's so scared he can't even speak coherently, struggled to explain my just rude behavior. Roselita also feels down in the dumps. This is the Queen's own son. He should be a support for the Duke by default. How does it look now, like he's undermining us? Cassian frowns and asks why he is here. Charles, on the other hand, looks relaxed. Said he was originally asked by his mother to have lunch with the Duke. But then his tone changed abruptly, saying that instead of that boring Duke, he would rather stay with Cayenne and this Miss Salisbury. Before anyone could react, Charlie actually walked up, directly grabbed Roselita's hand. The interest in his eyes was impossible to conceal. Charlie's move here is basically dancing on Cassian's minefield. He held on to Roselita's hand without letting go, while smiling and saying, he has a very good outlook on this marriage. Roselita was completely stunned, completely didn't understand this great emperor. What kind of medicine is in that little gourd? At that moment, maniacal protector Qixin finally lost it. He suddenly rushed forward and slapped Charlie's hand away. Directly, shield Roselita behind you, Cassian warned him coldly. This light and flirtatious behavior? If you let your own, the fiancé, knowing this, might be disappointed. Charlie didn't get angry at all, laughed even more brightly. He shrugged his hands as if it didn't matter at all. I don't think so. Charlie is truly a weirdo. He teases Roselita with a smile. Say someone like Kaisan, who is such a sourpuss, he's definitely going to have his hands full from now on. But then his style changed abruptly, and he started making grandiose promises again, vowing that he would absolutely support their touching love story. Before anyone could react, Charles acted like a poop stirrer, dragging that unfortunate Duke forcibly. Wave and walk away, watching his back as he leaves. Roselita couldn't help but exclaim, this guy is like a storm, here one moment, gone the next. Although I can't figure him out, but for now, it seems, he doesn't seem intent on opposing them. Kokasian clearly didn't think so. He directly interrupted Roselita's thoughts. Don't let him keep focusing on that, waste on that unreliable crown prince. He finally realized it belatedly. This prince, usually calm and noble, isn't it really that you fell into a vinegar jar? Jiamo slammed the table in frustration. He thought the other party was of low status, yet dared to be so arrogant, simply unacceptable. The Empress quickly comforted him, saying that for their future prospects, they must endure. Now, he felt Charles performed very well today. If not for his presence, the situation might have already gotten out of control. The Empress felt that powerless Marquis and his daughter is with Prince Hun. It's actually good for them. Charlie outwardly obeyed obediently. She's right about her mother, saying so, then find an excuse to leave first. He would completely change and become a negative person as soon as he turned around. Often complains in one breath, saying it's so annoying. Charlie just left. The Empress's expression changed instantly. He asked, have all the misfortunes been thoroughly investigated? In his eyes, those people of humble origin have become increasingly unruly lately. This time, the plan must not fail absolutely. He will never allow that Empress's son. So Kaishian Prince successfully ascended to the throne. Taking advantage of the moment before the other party noticed, he tightened the rope bit by bit, leaving Kaishian with no way out. A few days later, the long-awaited exhibition finally began. Fireworks lit up the sky. Nobles in full regalia were everywhere. Kashin is handling various polite compliments as the responsible person. Dealing with various polite compliments, he says, he just did his best. Do not fail to live up to your majesties and the kingdom's trust. He heard that the queen also helped a lot this time. The queen is showing great humility in front of everyone. He says he only made some suggestions. All the exhibits are being stored. Actually, it was Prince Kashian who was in charge of everything. The Rosalita next to her thought that something's off. The Duke did come to check a few times before, but is this really just to help? Kashian didn't bother with these formalities. He directly announced that he was going to start giving a formal lecture on the exhibits. The genuine game of wits is in these very exhibits. Kashian is introducing a rare statue. Say this is made from border souvenirs, minerals, and emits a unique light. But just then, the queen furrows her brow. He says this thing feels off. Rosalita immediately becomes alert on the side. It seems the other party has prepared a show, and it's about to begin. The Empress and Giamotiti began to sing in harmony, intentionally mentioning that the Duke's territory also has this type of ore, and saying that this thing appeared here is really a bit suspicious. Kaishin directly asked, "What exactly does this mean?" The Empress suddenly raised her voice, announcing to all the guests present loudly, "This mineral is actually called the Companion Stone, must be placed alongside the extremely rare Holy Stone. Only through struggle can one shine." The Empress reprimands publicly blame King Kingdom for not sending the Holy Stone over. This clearly shows disdain for the Empire. The crowd erupted like a pot. Even some people feel this is a humiliation for Lotus Shades 3. Prince Giamotiti stepped forward at this moment. He said that during his previous inspection, this statue was clearly glowing. Giamotiti directly pointed the blame at Kashian, publicly accusing him of poor management, actually allowing the Holy Stone to steal right under everyone's nose. The Emperor also applied pressure, forcing questions on Kashian to find out if this was really true. Kashian remained silent for a moment and, surprisingly, admitted it in front of everyone. Indeed, something was stolen. Kashian suddenly let out a cold laugh. He said that the thing stolen was actually just a fake. In fact, 6 days ago, Kashian had already noticed someone keeping an eye on the exhibit. Though they didn't catch him red-handed, but he had prepared a fallback plan in advance. Rosalita also caught on to this. Ordinary people have no idea where the exhibits are hidden. This indicates there must be something fishy going on internally. Kashian saw through all of this long ago. The other party, Feng Jingxin, is meticulous and cunning. In his eyes, this whole act, it's just the worst performance. Kaishin's move to lure the snake out of its hole is simply brilliant. He had counterfeits ready in advance, just waiting for the thief to bite the hook. To make this act more realistic, he even arranged for Princess Alexis in advance. The two of them worked together to set this trap. He's saying sorry with his mouth, failed to inform everyone about the plan in advance. Actually, it was just to thoroughly deceive the murderer. The Empress has nothing more to say now. Originally intended to frame someone, resulted in him becoming a minor clown. Kashin's retreat to advance move is truly high. He deliberately acted as if he was wronged, saying that he didn't expect everyone to trust him so little. Now, the Empress directly became a heavily historical sight. The Empress wants to play mediator again. The result was G. Métis. A pig teammate surprisingly shouted in front of everyone that Prince was lying. The Emperor's gaze turned cold. Ask him back directly. Why are you so certain he is lying? Jia Mo was now completely flustered. I couldn't say a single word in half a day. The Empress was about to go mad from being beside me, having such a stupid younger brother. All our original plans were completely ruined. This game of wits has left the Empress family with nothing. This farce is finally coming to an end. The Emperor asked calmly, "Can we proceed normally now?" "Can we proceed normally now?" "Yes, Your Majesty." The Empress has completely lost her temper. He points at Jiamotai and shouts, "If you're calling me crazy." Jiamotai lowers his head and continuously apologizes, saying he never expected. The security for the Eastern Palace on that day suddenly increased. The Empress won't listen to any of it. What he cares about most is... The Emperor surprisingly praised that guy in front of everyone. The other party really didn't leak anything this time. Even he had to admit it. He lost this round very thoroughly. But he definitely wouldn't let this go so easily. The Emperor was very satisfied with the performance this time. He even praised in front of everyone, saying that one glance could immediately see the focus of the exhibition. Kashin acted very humble. He said, "This doesn't reflect my achievements, thanks to Assistant Rosalita's efforts." The Emperor praised him even more instead. Frankly speaking, finding a capable assistant is a skill in itself. No wonder he's my son. This sentence is like a knife stabbed into the Empress's heart. He now regrets it terribly. If he had known this would be the result, he shouldn't have given him a chance to turn things around in the first place. The Empress looked at the heavy rain outside the window. All she could think about was one thing. Something that should have died is actually coming back to life. Gamulti stood by, not daring to breathe a sigh of relief. He can feel that the situation is now completely out of control. Time flies so quickly. Before he knew it, 10 years have passed. That was when Caxian returned from his first expedition. From that moment on, this man began to change in every way. All the variables, actually, it had already been sown from then on. Roselta couldn't believe her ears. He subconsciously asked again, "What did you say?" Cassian smiled and repeated, "You didn't hear wrong. I plan to give you a 9-day leave." Seeing his reaction like that, Cassian couldn't help but tease. "Why? You're not happy about taking a vacation?" Actually, he had wanted to do this for a long time. It's just that he never found the right opportunity. Now the exhibition has concluded successfully. It's also time for him to rest properly. Kaizen flipped through the documents in his hand. He said that the busy first half of the year was over. The workload for the next period won't be heavy. He can handle it all by himself. Roselite didn't move for a while. He couldn't help joking. Why he hasn't left yet? I thought you would be happy and rush out directly. Roselite hesitated before speaking. He said, Your Highness, I'm worried you might find it too exhausting to do this alone. Cassian chuckled after listening. He looked at Roselite. Say this softly. Actually, it should be what I said to you. Kaizen reached out and gently touched his face. His tone was abnormally gentle. He said not to worry anymore. The most important thing now is to rest. Then he whispered that I treasure my deputy most. Rosella was taken aback for a moment. He suddenly found this quite interesting. Previously, Kaizen always gave him various titles, even calling him his fiancé. But those all sounded cold and distant. Yet now, this cry from the assistant commander makes him feel an unprecedented warmth. Just as their hearts finally truly came together like this, Roselta's long-awaited 9-day vacation officially began. For the first 2 days, he went nowhere. He just stayed in the room, sleeping like crazy to catch up on lost sleep, planning to make up for all the fatigue from these days by sleeping. But who could have thought this good life has only lasted 2 days? The third morning arrived early. An unexpected guest entered the house. William Minna pushed the door open directly. In his heart, he was filled with disdain. He said he really couldn't believe it. The deputy of Prince's second son actually hides at home doing nothing. Looking at this missy in front of me, Rosilta was completely stunned. These peaceful days might be over. Wilmina bringing Rosalita to a manor, he casually asked how I felt about the place. Rosalita was completely stunned. He said this place is great. I never expected the mist to bring him to a place like this. Rosalita sounded so excited about it. Wilmina felt a bit embarrassed. Instead, he said he heard you've been very busy lately, since we finally got some time off. I especially took the trouble to arrange everything. Rosalita looks at the lady of the house in front of her. All she could think about was, Wilmina is literally an angel herself. Wilmina suggested going to the nearby village for a stroll. He said the scenery there is quite distinctive, asked Rosalita if she didn't want to go together. Of course, Rosalita was more than willing. For the next few days, the two of them walked through the streets together. They took a walk by the river, finally sit down to quietly enjoy an afternoon tea. Rosalita felt a myriad of emotions in her heart. Thanks to this young lady, this vacation turned out to be more fulfilling than I imagined. Wilmina put down the teacup, tone flat, yet very sincere. She said, It's actually not that big of a deal, and aren't we already friends, right? He said to just call him Weima from now on. Everyone around calls him that too. Rosalita looked at the young miss in front of her. Her heart couldn't help but exclaim, How adorable that is. Since he said so, Rosalita also responded loudly. So, please call him Rosal. Wilmina extended the invitation. Naturally, ask Ruo if Rosalita wants to go out for lunch together. He just happened to know a place with good brunches. A really nice spot. Ruo, Rosalita was utterly delighted. This kind of girlfriend-like date. Of course, he agreed 100%. Ruo, Rosalita felt she was so lucky to go on such a luxurious trip with friends. It's like dreaming, he silently prayed in his heart. If this is just a dream, then never wake up from it. But right in the next second, his beautiful dream shattered into pieces. Who would have thought that Kaizen would actually appear here? Rosalita was completely dumbfounded. Running into her boss at a vacation spot. This is literally every worker's nightmare. Rosalita suddenly realized something. The most critical issue now is, absolutely cannot let Wei see Kaizen. After all, this miss has been secretly crushing on Kaizen for a long time. What does Prince fear coming true comes? Kaizen has proactively stepped forward to greet, say, since returning to the palace, this is still their first official meeting. Result, Wilmina didn't get excited at all. Instead, he asked coldly, More importantly, why are you here? Rosilta watched in dumbfounded amazement. Wilmina was surprisingly calm. According to the script, shouldn't he have directly applied himself now? Kaizen lied calmly, saying he appeared here to learn. But his tone changed suddenly. He said it was already after work hours. He wanted some personal time. He then proposed a request that nobody expected everyone to make. He asked Wilhelmina, Can you lend Rosalita to him for a while? As soon as these words were said, Wilhelmina didn't hesitate for a single second. Directly shouting out is not allowed! The situation is now completely stuck. Wilhelmina's attitude is very firm. She has no chance of taking anyone from him. After all, he had everything planned for the time ahead. He also wants to spend some alone time with Rosalita. Cassian directly played his ace card. He said that he is actually Rosalita's fiancé. Since it's this identity, then taking away his fiancé, of course, it's not an unreasonable request. William Ming sneered. The tone is full of provocation. He retorted, so why now he is using his fiancé's identity to hold someone hostage, rather than under the guise of friends? Their gazes clashed intensely in midair. The tension practically spilled off the screen. It's the worst for Rosalita. Being caught between two big shots, all he can think about now is one thing. What on earth is going on here? Rosalita, who was already in a tough spot, really got it bad. This situation can't possibly end well. He just wants to get out of here as quickly as possible and stay with his good sister. After all, in Rosalita's heart, when this unmarried wife purely for the sake of working and earning money. Result, Wilhelmina didn't believe it at all. Still wearing a look like they've seen through the truth, teasing him because he's in a hot romance. Now we really have a big misunderstanding. Rosalita just wanted to disappear on the spot. Things are getting worse the more we try to cover them up. This time, Toxicin is surprisingly generous. He proactively declared his stance to Wilhelmina, saying he won't take Rosalita away now, telling him to just relax. Before leaving, he also reminded Rosalita not to worry, saying he's looking forward to their evening date. This isn't just a meal. It's clear a new mission has been assigned. Watching as Kaisen leaves, Rosalita instantly regained her senses. The 3 days of rest are over. We need to get back to work mode quickly. The camera shifts. Only these two women remain on the balcony. Wilhelmine suddenly remarked, said he could finally breathe easy. Rosalita was utterly confused by those words. She quickly probed to find out what exactly was going on. It turned out there had been gossip all along outside, saying that Prince Cassian's engagement was just for manipulation. Rosalita's career, first and foremost. He never really cared about her at all. Rosalita silently nodded in agreement with him. This review is spot on. After all, he knows himself best. This is just a transaction for mutual benefit. Who would have thought that Wilhelmina's style changed so drastically, saying she saw the two interact today in person, thinking they must be in love for sure. Now it's Rosalita CPU's turn to overheat with confusion. This misunderstanding is outrageous. He stood still upon arriving home, completely unsure of how to respond. Wilhelmina is clearly smitten. Now, he thought Kaisen traveled all this way just for him. His eyes filled with tenderness. This must be true amour. Running around, Rosalita felt a chill in her heart. She quickly asked, tentatively, "You used to really like princes, right?" But Wilhelmina's attitude is particularly firm now. She says she has already moved on from it. Absolutely not going to steal your best friend's spotlight. Seeing her being so magnanimous, Rosalita feels both touched and helpless inside. This misunderstanding is getting more absurd by the minute. He really wants to explain, clearly, out loud. We were just acting with Kaisian. But now, this situation, it's really impossible to wash away, even by jumping into the Yellow River. Kaisian is actually quite gentle now. He proactively asked Rosalita how she's been lately. But Rosalita doesn't appreciate it at all. She directly said that, as long as you don't show up, I'm doing better than anyone else. Facing this cold shoulder, Kaisen not only didn't get angry, but even more happily, he found Rosalita's disdainful attitude incredibly interesting. Rosalita rolled her eyes inwardly, thinking this man was extremely annoying. But what Kaisen said next leave him utterly speechless. He leaned close to Rosalita, whispered teasingly, saying, "You weren't the biggest skeptic of gentlemen witnesses, were you? Compared to those honest folks, you clearly prefer guys like me who are sly and cunningly wicked, right?" Hold on a moment, Rosalita. The tower suddenly realized a big problem. The identity of that life-saving benefactor from over 10 years ago. Seems like I've totally mixed things up. At that time, he did this to avoid altering the original plot. Intentionally disguised as Wilhelmina's appearance, saved back the severely injured Kaisian. At that time, Kaisian was running a high fever. The whole person was scorched into confusion. He didn't even see who saved him clearly. If Kaisian had always thought that the savior from years ago was Wilhelmina, and now suddenly finds out the truth is himself, this is going to be a big trouble. This cliched plot of falling for your savior is basically standard equipment for tragic heroines. Rosalita is now feeling more and more afraid as she thinks about it. Kaisian could tell something was off with Rosalita right away. He leaned in to ask, What you did to get that expression?" "I just did. Just analyzing the types of men you like," he said. "Since I'm so interested in you, aren't you also supposed to be respectful to me? Show a little bit of concern, okay?" Result, Rosalita doesn't fall for this at all. Just give him a cold look, and it's not needed. Thank you. This rejection speed really stunned Kaisen. About the truth of that year. Rosalita decides to keep it in her stomach for now. After all, if said out loud now, their relationship might completely collapse. Kaisen proactively changed the topic. "Ask Rosalita why she hasn't been on a cruise for so long. How do you feel now?" Rosalita was just wearing a depressed expression earlier. Just mentioning this, my eyes shining. I love riding boats so much. Turned out, he took out an entire gang on the cruise last time directly. Illegal trading syndicate gained a huge prize. Now it's Kaisen who is speechless. Thought we were just talking about romance, but instead, this girl's mind is completely focused on making money. Rosalita began to recall the grand scenes of old. Back then, Kaisen was leading people to seize the entire cruise ship, illegal drugs everywhere. When he first saw the ship, he was completely stunned. On the brightly lit deck, hidden were shady transactions. That very night, Rosalita, relying on her sharp intuition, directly brought people to the arrest scene, caught red-handed. Kaisen finally said the truth. He has always remembered Rosalita from that year. When achieving merit on the cruise ship, that excited expression, just wanted to take him on a real luxury cruise. Rosalita was left speechless after hearing that. Turned out, all that trouble was for nothing. Kaisen actually wanted to bring him here to fulfill his dream. But his job requires brain power. The first reaction was to ask, "Are we here today to catch illegal transactions as well?" Kaizen was so infuriated he wanted to burst out laughing. He reluctantly explained, "Today is really not for work. Just wanted to bring you along for fun." But then his style changed. His eyes became sharper. "Although not for the purpose of solving the case, but probably not even this boat will be completely peaceful tonight," the message Kaizen brought. The atmosphere instantly dropped to freezing point. The fire mage who was caught that year. It's starting to spread illegal drugs again, and right where Rosalita was resting. More strangely, this case wasn't originally under Kaizen's jurisdiction, but the queen personally ordered him to handle it as a side task. The more Rosalita listened, the more she felt something was off. It's another order from the queen for the same case. It's all too coincidental. This isn't tea at all. It's clear someone is deliberately leading them into a trap. Things are indeed not that simple after all. Rosalita now has nothing but questions in her mind. How did the queen know he was hiding here anyway? This feeling of being controlled, his back felt chilled. Kaizen, on the other hand, was quite open-minded about it. He thought the Empress only used Rosalita as a shield. He wished his brother had avoided trouble earlier. He told Rosalita to just go on vacation. The rest he would handle himself. Rosalita agreed verbally. She was still anxious inside. He subconsciously gripped the hem of her skirt. This small action couldn't hide from Kaizen's eyes. Kaizen immediately noticed it. Rosalita now had her mind elsewhere. He stopped walking, staring at Rosalita. "Are you hiding anything from me?" Now I'm in trouble. The more Rosalita thinks, the less at ease she feels. Since the queen knows he lives with Wilhelmina, then what comes next is definitely not simple. What he fears most is that innocent friends might be implicated. In Rosalita's memory, the queen in the aid is very vicious. Just because Wilhelmina has a secret crush on Cassian, she targets and bullies Ta everywhere. It seems the queen's plan this time is to hit two birds with one stone, catch both him and Wilhelmina at once. The situation is really dangerous now. As Rosalita daydreamed, Cassian hugged him into his arms. He whispered comfortingly, "Don't worry." He is absolutely not letting William get involved. A whole 3 days have passed. Cassian hasn't shown up these few days. Rosalita, while Wilhelmina had a few peaceful days. It was rare to enjoy such leisurely times, but this peace didn't last long. Rosalita felt she had rested enough, proactively proposed to head back to the capital tomorrow. After all, there were still matters pending there. Cassian put down the document he was reading after listening. He would stay here for 2 more days to clarify the remaining clues. It seems that from now on, the two of them would have to work separately for a while. Cassian lets Rosalita not worry about it. He promises that when Rosalita departs, he will specially send a messenger bird to deliver the message so he can keep track of the situation at all times. Rosalita can tell Cassian is definitely going to be busy tomorrow, but Cassian sounds so sweet compared to those mortal attacks. He wishes to keep Rosalita's vacation safe. These words made Rosalita feel warm in her heart. He smiled and made a promise with Cassian. He would wait in the capital for him. But who could have thought? The message that was supposed to be delivered was destroyed by a pool of dark ink. Wilhelmina noticed immediately. You can tell Rosalita has something on her mind. He proactively asked if anything was wrong. Rosalita stammered. She couldn't say a whole sentence for half a day. Wilhelmina was quite understanding, though. Since it's about official business, there's no need to force an explanation. He even offered to step in. Just stay here, and you'll only get in the way. Planning to head back to the capital first, it seems this letter's impact is even greater than expected. The capital might really see some changes soon. Before leaving, Wilhelmina specifically reminded her, no matter what happens, she must take extra care of herself. Rosalita smiled and agreed. May he have a safe journey. Watching the carriage gradually disappear until it completely vanished from sight in this very second, the smile on Rosalita's face disappeared. He suddenly turned around and desperately ran back. It seems the situation is indeed very urgent. He could no longer wait for a moment longer. Rosalita ran. He recited Kaisen's name in his heart. Everything will be fine. There will definitely not be any major problems, even if an accident really did happen. With Kaisen's cunning nature, there must be a way to retreat unscathed. After all, that man never does anything without assurance. Right, Kaisen? Who would have thought Kaisen, who was just talking earlier, is now hiding in the stall covered in blood? From the looks of it, he clearly just went through a fierce battle, and he's about to collapse completely. Just then, a strange light suddenly pierced through his chest, as if something was about to break free from a cocoon. Now things are going to get troublesome. Having been injured so badly in such a place, could he really survive? Tao Xian reluctantly used a magical potion to simply treat the wound. This sudden ambush came too abruptly, letting him suffer more unnecessary injuries as a result. What he is most worried about now is that Rosalita might be worried and anxious for him. In his days, he recalled Rosalita's teachings in the past. He said, they must always leave themselves an escape route. Never think running away is a sign of weakness. Back then, Rosalita was very young. Even his name she couldn't pronounce fully. She would only follow him around, calling him Ian. To keep these memories alive, he had to endure those days with Wilhelmine, are the warmest memories of Kaisen's life. Almost every word he spoke back then shaped the person he is now. But he quickly realized, it's not the time to lie here and wait for things to happen. If I really die like this, that would be too humiliating. Cassian forced himself to sit up. He wasn't ready to give up just yet. At this moment, suddenly, a series of hurried footsteps came from outside. Someone is running over quickly towards Manhwa. Rosalita finally rushed into Manhwa, shouting loudly, "Prince!" When he saw Kaisen lying in a pool of blood, he almost collapsed completely. Kaisen looked at the Rosalita in front of him, but his mind was thinking that since someone was still waiting for him, how could he bear to die like this? He forced a smile. Kenshin told Rosalita not to show such an expression. Rosalita's tears were about to fall down, shout back saying, "You are covered in wounds," and his body was still so frighteningly hot. How could I possibly not be worried? Now we're in trouble. Kaisen not only suffered severe injuries, still running a high fever. If not treated urgently, the consequences are unimaginable. Seeing the shocking bloodstains on Kaisen's body, Rosalita felt a chill down her spine. If she had come even later, the consequences would truly be unimaginable. He couldn't understand it at all. What has this man gone through that he could tough it out alone until now? Kaisen barely opened his eyes. He comforted Rosalita saying, "Don't say any more. Let me rest for a while." He handed what he was tightly holding to Rosalita, whispering instructions about what would happen next, and left it all to her. After saying those words, he seemed like a tightly strung string that finally snapped entirely. His whole body directly collapsed into Rosalita's arms, completely losing consciousness. Rosalita tightly hugged the unconscious Kaien, comforted him as if he were her own, saying, "You've done enough already." He opened up the scroll Kaien brought back with all his might. Originally thought it was just some ordinary documents. When he looked closely at the writing above, he was completely stunned. If this content were to be leaked out, it might cause a major incident throughout the entire empire. The scene changed. Sunlight entered the simple small room. A pot of steaming soup was boiling on the stove. Kaien slowly opened his eyes. Looking at the unfamiliar surroundings, he knew he had finally made it through. Seeing Cassian finally do something right, Rosalita quickly brought over freshly cooked hot soup. Feeling a bit embarrassed, she said she made it while you were sleeping. Randomly, did a little. The taste might be average, but Cassian smiled and said, "As long as it's food made by Rosalita, he looks forward to it." Watching Cassian eat heartily like that, Rosalita suddenly became dazed. He recalled his childhood, the days when he pretended to be Wilhelm Minne. Back then, the environment was even more dilapidated than now. He always ate this simple food, and he used to do so too. He never complained about it. It seems so many years have passed. This man hasn't changed at all. When it comes to eating, he really doesn't pick his food at all. While you were sleeping, I went through the documents you brought back, and also investigated the area around here. The result was that those magicians intended to use the luxurious cruise ship for trading actually claimed ownership of it, was Wilhelmina. Clearly, the other party had calculated that Wilhelmina hardly used this ship at all in her daily life, which is why they deliberately chose to meet here. They just wanted to take advantage of the lack of supervision, hole in regulation. In the gap of regulation, this transaction was carried out right under our noses. This is not a coincidence at all, but rather a conspiracy orchestrated by the Empress. He wants to ensnare all of us in one fell swoop. The documents you brought back are very clear about it. Tonight, on that cruise ship, there will be an illicit drug transaction. Caution sighed after listening. It seems Rosalita's concerns before were all correct. Now such crucial evidence has fallen into our hands. They must be desperate to get it back. They will definitely try to retrieve it at any cost. But don't worry, since you dared to take this move, I naturally kept a backup plan. Caution was somewhat curious. What exactly have you prepared as a countermeasure? Rosalita had already come up with a plan to lure the tiger away. He specially bought a first-class seat ticket for the capital, just so the enemy would think they have already left by train. To make it look more realistic, he also arranged for Cassian's knights to wear their uniforms and disguise themselves as the two of them getting into the car. As everyone's attention was drawn away by that train, that's when the real plan just began. The two, at this moment, he has already sneaked onto this cruise ship. Kaisen looks at the current situation before him. Can't help but exclaim, truly didn't make a mistake. If Rosalita wasn't by his side, she would really be unable to do anything. Salas says unenthusiastically, "Stop using me for fun. The most important thing now is, act out our current roles well. This is the serious business we should be doing." To avoid being recognized, Roselta put on a great show, right in front of everyone. He deliberately made things difficult for the nearby Kaisen, loudly scolding him for not even managing to escort properly. Kaisen coordinated flawlessly. The humble one keeps apologizing. The surrounding nobles have indeed fallen for it. They are all pointing and whispering behind, thinking, this woman has no manners and poor taste. Seeing everyone's disdainful reaction, Kaisen nearly couldn't hold back a laugh. Haha, this performance is too successful. In this state now, indeed, nobody could recognize the true identities of these two people. Who could have thought that a member of the royal family would be involved in this? Turns out, it would disguise itself like this. The most vulgar nouveau riche and the servant. Rosalita performed this play very enthusiastically. He did it in front of everyone, complained loudly about the low-quality jewelry here. Even getting Kaizen cursed out thoroughly. The surrounding nobles all turned their heads. Their eyes were filled with disdain and contempt. But that was exactly the effect they wanted. As long as they behaved uneducated enough, no one would connect them with those two noble identities. Watching Kaizen pretend to beg for mercy, this infiltration play is totally secure now. Rosetta's performance in this drama is getting intense. Didn't expect it to really attract a big fish. A man with grayish-purple hair suddenly appeared. He wasn't even angered by Rosetta's unreasonable provocation. Instead, he smiled and promised, "The cabin definitely has treasures that will satisfy him." Rosalita immediately put away that nouveau riche attitude, staring at the other and demanding, "Who exactly are you? Are you the owner of this ship?" The man acted very confident. He readily agreed to take responsibility for his words. This empty-handed trick actually worked. Not only didn't he get angry, but he even offered a letter as an exception. Invitations are only given to counts and above. Rosalita still pretends to be arrogant on the surface, but her heart is already overjoyed. Now, I finally have a ticket in hand. Once that man leaves, Kaizen can't help but make a remark. This guy's mouth just keeps running wild. Not a single word is true. Who cares about him, her, it, though? At least the most important thing is already in hand. Since we have the invitation card already, let's see what's in this cabin. What precious treasure is hiding inside? The moment I stepped in, the atmosphere completely changed. There were whispers everywhere, shadowy figures murmuring. The guard blocked Rosalita and Cassian. Passed over two masks, a chill hung in his tone. He said that as soon as one steps through this door, they must wear a mask. Here, there is no reason, nor any morality. It seems that once this step is taken, there truly is no going back. Put on the mask, Rosalita and Cassian officially sneaked into the venue. But this crowded scene clearly doesn't match the list. Cassian said aside that things are going to be troublesome now. You're usually the most annoyed by crowded places. But there's more to his words. He thinks despite the crowd, the goal will definitely be achieved. Rosalita immediately understood. This trick to lure the tigers away from the mountain has clearly worked completely. Those troublesome mages must have all been hidden to chase after the fake stand-in. There are already very few tough opponents left here. Looking around at these masked, noble guests in this room, in reality, they are all Jin-Yo-Jun, sustained by drugs. They're basically cash cows for these criminals. Cassian does look the part. He smiled and asked Rosalita, "Want to go inside for some fun?" But before they could move, suddenly someone in the crowd shouted in alarm. Something big has happened. The venue is now completely chaotic. Before anyone could react, the ship's broadcast suddenly transmitted screams. The course changed abruptly. The entire ship was rushing towards unknown seas. Before the fuming man could ask clearly, suddenly, a cloud of white smoke burst out in the venue. Now it's completely chaotic. Someone covered their mouth and nose. Some people couldn't even stand steadily. This smoke clearly has a problem. Everyone knows they've fallen for it. Amidst this chaos, the real danger is quietly approaching. These people haven't even reacted. Their hands are already tied tightly. That smoke earlier wasn't poison at all, but was actually a specific antidote for them. Rosalita publicly tossed out the arrest warrant. Illegal drug production. Green Swallow family assets. Forged official documents. These charges are serious. Long enough for them to spend their whole lives in prison. Everyone in the hall was left dumbfounded. Didn't they say Crown Prince Xiao died from drowning in the river? Why would you suddenly appear here? It seems the sky is really changing on this ship. Rosalita smiled and added more to these people's portion. Besides the previous charges, now there's also a murder of the royal family charge to consider. Clearly, these people haven't realized the situation yet. The one leading them was still shouting loudly, saying they would never surrender willingly. But Rosalita didn't even lift an eyebrow. Order the soldiers to search thoroughly. Don't spare even the inner clothes. Now they are completely on guard. The messenger called him a devil. Too bad pleading now is too late, Cassian suddenly called out to Rosalita, passed over that old ledger in his hand. This is exactly the crucial evidence he has been looking for. He said that with this, Williamina is now completely safe. The promise he made to Rosalita is finally fulfilled now. Rosalita took the ledger. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Recalling what the mage said just now, she couldn't help but ask Kaizen, did he get poisoned during the battle? Otherwise, why would the other party think he was already dead? Tausian snorted coldly. He said that those guys were most skilled at using such underhanded tactics. But Rosalita's heart skipped a beat. Something clearly didn't add up. In the original story, the one who should have fallen down after being poisoned was supposed to be him. He is unharmed now, though. It seems the script of this world has been completely rewritten. Originally, he became his own sacrificial goat. He took the fatal poison for him. He couldn't help whispering an apology, but Kaizen was utterly confused. He didn't understand why he was apologizing. Rosalita couldn't explain herself, or say that the poison was meant for him. Such secrets about the original plot could only rot in her stomach. But who would have thought Kaizen's next words were even more absurd? He actually worried that Rosalita was scared, so he planned to quit his job. This unexpected turn left Rosalita completely speechless. That momentary guilt, all of it was instantly caught in this strange train of thought, scattered them apart. Kaizen has truly gone all out now. He grabbed Rosalita's arm with one hand. He had no intention of letting go despite using a powerful force. He stared at Rosalita. Say every word as you can't leave, and you especially can't leave now. The countless arrows of fate are flying everywhere, but Kakai is getting closer and closer. There's even a hint of pleading in his tone. He said, "Don't leave me behind." Kakai held on tightly, whispering to Rosalita not to abandon him. This cold prince actually has such a fragile side too. Rosalita reluctantly made a promise. "Since we agreed not to leave, then I will definitely keep my word." Seeing him leaning on her shoulder, Rosalita knew very well in her heart, this guy really knows how to make his heart soften. Thought I could finally have some peace in the capital city. Resulted instead from the aftermath of the cruise ship incident is just beginning to stir up trouble. This is going to be a mess. The situation outside is even more chaotic than expected. Kaisen just returned from the queen, although the other party was polite on the surface, but they definitely weren't happy inside. Originally planned to dig a hole for Kaisen, resulted instead in a generous gift. Now even Wilmina is being watched closely. If he hadn't been following Kaisen all along, he probably wouldn't have escaped blame this time around. After all, the queen detests those who stray from her control. Rosalita was well aware of this. Everything unfolded just as in the original storyline. Lopez, Duke, was hiding in the shadows, weighing the two princes on a scale. To an ambitious man like him, whom he marries doesn't matter. What matters is who can bring him greater benefits. The queen's appetite is even bigger than expected. Not only did he intend to get rid of Wilhelmina and the Duke's family, he didn't even plan to spare Cassian. This is going to boil the thorn in my eye all at once. It's been so hard to wait for the cruise case to end. Rosalita thought she could finally breathe a sigh of relief. But as soon as summer arrived, the real nightmare has just begun. Indeed, the financial settlement for the first half of the year is due. This workload is much more deadly than solving cases. Before they could even react, assistants rushed in with piles of documents. The second princess and the empress are pressing for the budget. It seems that from now on, nobody will be getting any sleep. This is going to be trouble. These mountainous ledgers are the hardest seals to affix. Documents from all the palaces flew in like snowflakes. This moment, the true hell mode has begun. Rosalita now regrets the last thing was hearing someone call his name. Every time they called out his name, another stack of documents appeared on the table. Although this feeling of being relied on by everyone is exactly what Kaisen wanted in terms of power, but there must be a limit to everything. If they keep doing this, both of them will collapse from exhaustion. Here, Rosalita couldn't sit still anymore. These trivial matters must be reduced. He decided to go down to the worksite personally. It seems some trouble needs to be addressed at its source. The administrators of Summer Palace are strolling leisurely. While slacking off, they're gossiping behind others' backs, mocking the Eastern Palace for working overtime every day. Because it's due to a lack of ability, even felt like pushing work onto someone else. That's what they call efficiency in getting things done. Just as they were getting carried away with their success, a cold voice came from behind. Scared these few people into standing still on the spot. Rosalita directly made it to the entrance of Summer Palace. Since these people take efficiency into their own hands, that's perfect. The Eastern Palace doesn't keep idle people around. He's not here to catch up, but to return all the messes pushed over with malice to their original owners. Looking at this pile of files stacked like a mountain, this group's good days are officially over. Since this group wants to play the blame game, Rosalita also doesn't feel like wasting words. Just come out and say it plainly. Clean up your own messes yourself. This bunch wants to bite back. They think the Eastern Palace is bullying people, but with one sentence from Rosalita, she completely quenched their anger. If you are not satisfied, then just send the documents directly to the Emperor. Look who's the one not doing any work, yet wanting a reward. Watching this unlucky fellow get his comeuppance. Enjoying the sight of these people failing miserably. Rosalita walked away without looking back. Since you've taken it upon yourselves to be efficient, then these tasks won't be a challenge for you. Thought I'd solved the trouble with Yamato. Life could have been a bit easier. Reality gave him a heavy blow. Back to the office. The files were still piled high like mountains. Colleagues' shouts rose and fell continuously. It was driving him crazy. At this moment, another knock came from outside the door. Now things got really bad. The person who knocked and came in was no one else. It is precisely Deputy Director Ah Woo-ji of the Summer Palace. He was holding a plate with so-called emergency documents in his hand. He immediately asked Rosalita to help him deal with it. Rosalita couldn't believe her ears at all. Just a few days ago, she had just sent back the mess from Lower Palace. Now, it's actually coming back again. And even worse, this is during the busiest time in East Palace. Even more outrageous is yet to come. Ashi looked at his watch, stated in a bland tone. He has to clock out on time at 12, so Rosalita must coordinate with his schedule, finishing all the work before he leaves. This attitude just makes me so angry. Rosalita tightened her grip on the feather pen in her hand, in sync with this guy wanting to go home on time for himself, passing all the pressure onto others. Such shameless demands. Anyone who hears them would lose their cool. Rosalita could no longer hold back, directly exposing his scheme in front of everyone. Since everyone already knows that the Eastern Palace is working non-stop, then this blatant bullying, today, it's definitely not over. Rosalita directly points at the other person's nose. saying things to the very end. Coming here to ask for help just to get home on time. The abacus beads are about to hit my face already. What's even more infuriating is Miwa. Down clearly belongs to the crown prince. Usually, we already have taken advantage of things. Now even trivial little things. You want to stuff it all into Rosalita? Already blown up schedule. Appa Wood actually dared to assume a high and mighty attitude. He doesn't mind Rosalita's unreasonable behavior. Just came over specially to talk about cooperation. Now Rosalita is completely fried. Don't joke with me here. The Eastern Palace is so busy, they don't even have time to drink water. Who has the free time to understand you? Since you insist on this urgent help, that works too. But there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Rosalita revealed a meaningful smile. Since my lord, 15 is so sincere, then don't leave. Personally, stay and help me out. Ah, 15. Virtues couldn't believe it. He, a high-ranking official of the lower palace restoration, actually has to assist Rosalita. Rosalita doesn't indulge him directly, placing the documents on the table. Since you keep coming to the Eastern Palace for help, stay and learn well. How should I do this work? Seeing the other person still hesitating there, Rosalita sneered and directly used the provocation method. How? Feel like I should make my barren son's daughter work for me. Does it damage your status? Ah, 15 is now panicked. Hurry up and explain yourself, saying you're just afraid of losing the face of Xiao Gong. Rosalita doesn't buy any of this nonsense. She directly gave her a final ultimatum. Either stay and work here, or take your mess and leave forever. Don't come begging for help again. It looks like Rosalita is about to kick you out. A15 had no choice but to agree. He could only grit his teeth and accept. A15 eventually lowered his head. He reluctantly agreed to Rosalita's proposal. Watching this usually proud aide-de-camp, now he has no choice but to stay and listen to him be dismissed. Rosalita's lips curled into a cold smile. Indeed, no matter how self-important someone is, before the critical situation with the Jixien, you still have to listen and obey. In the past, people from Xiaogong always left on time for work, leaving all the messes behind for Donggong, making them busy day and night while they enjoyed themselves outside. Rosalita clenched her fist tightly. This time, since the person has fallen into his hands, then don't even think about easily leaving.